The Dent Slayer, Matt Boyette. Thank you so much for being here.
She's smooth, Lord. She's smooth.
So Matt's brother Mark lives like 3 doors down from me, and I live kind of at the end of a cul-de-sac, and he lives kind of around the corner on the more main street. So one night I'm at the house, and one of my kids has the dog outside and is like runs inside. Is like, there's some people outside. There's some people in dark hoodies at the neighbor's house. And the neighbor is like a old lady that lives by herself. And there's no reason that anybody should be over there. So I'm like, okay. So I get the dog back because they've probably already seen and heard the dog. So I take the dog back out there, and sure enough, I see like several dark figures like around the house. And I'm like, this is bad. So I go back in the house, and I call Matt's brother Mark, and I'm like, Mark, come to my house right now and bring a gun. He's like, okay, click. No, nothing else. And so I go back outside, and I have my gun, and I can still see like people moving in the shadows over there, but I'm just like, I'm gonna wait till Mark gets there to do anything, or just see how the situation unfolds, because it still seems like they're outside. They're not trying to break in or anything. And Mark cuts through the neighbor's backyard because there's no fences. He just kind of cuts through, and I see him come out of the dark, under the street light. He kind of comes into the light. And then as he does that, the people at the neighbor's house over here, they come into the light towards him, and it's cops. It's 3 police. No cop car, nothing. And he comes out into the light, and then we all kind of converge in the street. And they kind of start questioning us and like asking us what's going on. And we're like, you tell us what's going on. Like, what are y'all doing? And they're like, why did you call us? And we're like, we didn't call you. Like, what? And so they never explained themselves why they were there. I've never seen cops do that before. I thought when they show up, they want to make it like public, and they want to embarrass you in front of your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
You're like, bro, can you turn the lights off? You're trying to embarrass us. But it was the craziest thing. And I was thinking, if Mark would have come with a rifle, or something, which I was thinking he was going to bring a rifle, big magazine, but he brought his pistol, and he had it concealed. And I was thinking, dude, that could have been so bad.
Yeah, emerging out the shadows with a big ass gun.
But I thought, dude, that dude came to my house with a gun. No questions asked, within like 30 seconds. And I was like, this dude's for real. So that's Matt's brother, Mark. But to this day, I don't know why they were there or anything. But, I mean, how dangerous was that situation I think that they could have gotten shot, like, justifiably by somebody that was afraid if the situation deteriorated.
For sure. That's a little weird.
You've heard that story before, right?
I have heard that story, yeah. From you, not from him.
Yeah, I want to hear it from his perspective.
This episode is brought to you by Mobile Tech RX, the #1 app built for auto recon pros. Whether you're chasing hail, fixing wheels, or repairing dents, Mobile Tech RX handles the full workflow from estimate to payment with zero fluff. With tools like X-ray, access photos, hail matrices, and tech pay tracking, you'll save time, make more, and look damn good doing it. Start your 5-day free trial at mobiletechrx.com.
Are you focused on repairing vehicles but forced to juggle insurance claims? That's a headache you don't need. With ClaimConnection.io, their team writes full CCC estimates for hail, collision, and PDR, then submits them and fights for every dollar you're owed. They handle the paperwork and the pushback. You focus on the repair. ClaimConnection.io, relentless claim support so you can fix more dents, make more money, and stress less.
Yeah, cops are weird. I met a lot of cops. And some cops just operate funny.
Yeah.
I worked for the medical examiner before I worked doing wheels, and my mom and my dad owned a cleanup company. So we would go in, and it was odd. We would do transports. So we'd go in there after the scene's already been cleared. We can transport
Like a
the
crime
body.
scene.
Yeah, and cops are just so strange. Like the different levels of experience. I guess there's tiers of how they operate. But
Sure.
I met quite a few that are just odd dudes, man. One of them was, as soon as he'd see my mom all the time, he'd be snapping, trying to pretend he's taking pictures of her and just like flirting with her. In the middle, there's a dead body on the floor, and this guy's flirting with my mom. I'm over here like, man, we gotta be professional. I'm only 15 years old, pretending to be an adult.
Your parents are bringing you.
Yeah, man. Well, my brothers
Oh my
were.
gosh.
My brothers were going down a bad path, and my mom kind of asked me if I wanted to do it. I think she was just trying to scare me.
Yeah.
And then she said she'd pay me. So I started doing it a little more, and it was cool. I saw a lot of crazy things. I think that kind of put me in the direction of I wanted to do something better with my life, because how quick life can be over. Like the first dead body I seen, speaking of cop lights, pulling up on cop lights and like not knowing what's about to happen. And it's just a simple old man died of a heart attack on the side of the road in his truck, and he fell out of his truck, and it's just a couple squad cars lighting up the night and take him and go. And that was my first ever, with my dad. But yeah, I progressed from there. But meeting different people in the industry definitely shine light on, we're all human. we all have tendencies and weird behavior.
So what would their business? They weren't a cleanup. They would just take the body.
They were a cleanup, but they were subcontractors for another company. So they did, it was B&B removal or transport. They did Seminole and Volusia County. So they would get calls from the medical examiners to dispatch pickups, because they were doing pickups on their own, but they would get so many calls that they needed to subcontract other companies that could do removals for them. So my mom was a worker. She worked for another guy that had the contract. So he would dispatch us, and we'd go do the runs. But my dad was kind of I don't want to say con man. He was a hustler. He just didn't have the right structure in his life, But he said, oh, well, since we're doing this, let's create a crime scene trauma cleanup business on the back burner. And every time they'd go do a pickup, they'd leave a card. And then, the families would need someone to come back in there depending on the mess. And my parents would do it. And me, my brothers, my sisters, we would all go out and we'd help do it. And they were learning. They didn't do anything by the book. They kind of were winging it, which we can all kind of relate to that, I'm sure. And eventually, they lost the contract for transport. So that lost their kind of honey hole for leaving cards. And, yeah, it ended a couple of years. But, yeah, it was kind of crazy. A lot of crazy stories doing that, man. Picking up bodies and then going in after. Seeing their lives, cleaning out their houses.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you start doing that when you were 15.
Yeah, I saw my first dead body when I was 15. And the last dead body I seen was my dad, who I saw my first dead body with. And that was
No
odd.
way.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
Wow. So that was recently.
Yeah. That's a big, I guess, point in my life. Changed my perspective again, constantly changing the paradigm of my reality and the way I see things and adjusting it as I go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's guest is my friend Garrett Nelson, owner of Absolute Wheel Repair in Orange City, Florida. That's all right?
Yes, sir.
So I remember the first time I met you, we were both working for Dent Wizard, and I think we were at a rental place up at the airport in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And one of the managers brought you, I think a manager brought you by. Maybe you just came by yourself.
It might have been Jamie
Armstrong.
Jamie Armstrong.
So Matt helped Jamie get that job.
Mm. I got a good story about how Jamie contacted me. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. So I used to do wheels for this half-ass company, and I don't want to put them on blast, but at the same time, True Appeal, they just did wheels. But the guy dated my mom, and that's how I got into it. And my mom dumped him. He hired me. He had a nice house, had some toys, and I wanted what he had. And I started running a route with him, and he didn't teach me anything. A couple years go by, I still don't even know what I'm mixing together. 10 drops of this and a half bottle of that, and I'm spraying, don't even know what. I'm out there guessing. But just good enough to get the job done and go home. But anyways, so I quit that job, and I had a Tom Bush BMW dealership in Jacksonville, and the reconditioning manager liked me. I just had my first baby, like
You
say,
had it with that guy's company?
Yeah, I had it with his company. Like you say, build relationships with everybody on the lot, detailers, everybody, because everyone makes moves. And, that's something that I was good at doing anyway. And with him, that's what I did to kind of keep relationships, because I wasn't a good wheel guy. I could just get it done just enough. You know what I mean? And I was on the lot doing shit that I shouldn't have been touching. But so she told Jamie, because Jamie was just new to the area trying to build the market. And as far as I recall, all the Dent guys did not like the fact that Dent Wizard was coming over and pushing interior bumpers, wheels into their stores. That seemed to be what I noticed the most animosity around when I was starting with Dent Wizard. But Jamie called me and asked me to sit down with him, and I told him no, because Christian told me Dent Wizard was the devil. And I thought, and then I had another manager at Gary Yeoman's Ford, Richard. He also confirmed that Dent Wizard was the devil, So in my mind, it was formed. My thoughts on Dent Wizard was they're the devil, and I don't want nothing to do with them. And then when they called me after I quit that guy, I was working for the garbage company with my dad. I was on the back of a truck slinging trash, man. Talk about an awful fucking job.
Wow.
Sorry, my language. I have a dirty mouth, guy. I'm gonna do my best not to swear.
All good.
But Jamie calls me. I tell him no. He calls me again. And then I entertain it because he kind of gave me the rundown on who gave him my contact, and he would really like to sit with me, because she told him if I was the wheel guy, Dent Wizard can have the wheels there. So it meant something to him. And I told him to meet me at Gary Yeoman's Ford, because they have that cafe in the inside. So we met in there, and we're talking, and he's introducing like what he can do, level 2 tech. I can have a route already established, a wheel truck, all this stuff that I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. And yeah, then he asks me why we met at that location, and I told him, oh, well, I used to do the wheels here. And he was like, no way. You know the manager here? I was like, yeah, Richard. He's like, I know Richard too, but he didn't say it in like a good way. And I was like, yeah, Richard's a hard ass. Like he's my first time meeting Richard, I gave him an invoice doing like our first wheel, and he scratched my price off and cut it in half and said, you think I'm gonna pay you that much? And he gave me it back, and I was like, I guess not. And I dealt with it because it was like one of my first stores, but I built that relationship with him so much, and I knew he liked me. And this Jamie dude seemed really interested. So I was like, you want me to take you back there and meet him? He's like, no, I've met him plenty of times. So I was like, well, we can go back there and talk to him. He has a big old Dent Wizard calendar on his desk. Yep. And that he said multiple times to me, that's the best thing Dent Wizard's got, is this damn calendar, So we're walking back there, and he sees me with Jamie, and he already knew who the hell Jamie was. And he's like, what are you doing with them? And I was like, oh, well, I think I'm going to be coming back and doing wheels. We're talking about it. And he was like, that's the only way Dent Wizard will get my wheels. And Jamie was like, so ready to hire me. So it was cool because I didn't even know what the hell I was doing with wheels. I only knew how to get like certain jobs done. But Jamie thought I was coming in like a all-star, ready to go. And it was not the case. Yeah. So I was extremely nervous to even tell Jamie that I actually didn't really know. But he wasn't asking me, oh, what products are you using? What system do you follow? He didn't know. He didn't know anything either. Yeah. So it made it easier for me to just be like, oh, yeah, everything's gravy. We can do this. And I didn't want to work as a garbage guy. So, yeah. So he told me he's going to give me a truck, a phone, benefits, all this stuff. My wife was like, let's do it. We just had a baby. We're already having a hard time. I lost the house I was renting because of the dude that taught me how to do wheels. When I quit working for him, he never paid me my last month's pay. So I was in such a bad spot, but Dent Wizard scared me, so I told him no at first. But
so let's just retrace some steps here. So what year were you doing Tom Bush?
That's a good question. 2011, 2012.
So was that before you were with Dent Wizard?
Yeah. And then Dent Wizard, I continued.
Do you want to say who you're with then?
It was True Appeal.
True Appeal.
Yeah, and then before, it was True Appeal. That was
What year did you? He came on with Dent Wizard after you left to go chase hail. I'm pretty sure. Is that right?
Yeah, but I was doing Tom Bush then. I did.
Eric was doing it when I was working for Dent Wizard. Eric Ramsey.
Yeah,
So
that was
you were
after
gone.
me.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
With True Appeal.
with True Appeal, I was doing it.
So we've probably ran into each other.
Yeah,
I was in a
when they had the
horrible van.
Autoplex, when it was the Autoplex, and Gene Viola was the used car manager on the used car side, and Andrew was running CPO. I was doing that whole facility on Atlanta Boulevard. You know, they got the one over in Orange Park, but-
Right.
So I was doing that for Dent Wizard, and then I quit in 2000. I quit here locally in 2013, and then I think Casey went in there
Yeah, I remember
temporarily,
Casey.
and then I guess Eric maybe. I don't know who did after that, but
So, what I remember about first meeting you that was memorable was you had energy. You had energy, and you were fired up, and like it felt like, okay, this dude is gonna make something happen. Because a lot of
That's
times
good
you
to
meet
hear.
people, and especially when you're working for Dent Wizard and they bring a new guy around, you're kind of like, it's always like, well, you know, we'll see how this goes. But I remember you were doing things, you were hustling, you were a hard worker,
Right on. Thank you.
and you were doing. I remember you were saying that you did jujitsu and you were fighting, and so I was like,
just
okay,
had my
this
first
dude.
fight when I got hired on with Dent Wizard. So that
Okay.
was kind of like something that I was relying on to help me not talk about how much I know about wheels. Because
You would
I
bring
didn't
that
want to
up.
expose myself. So I talked about dead bodies and fighting. And it helped. You know, people were more, they didn't really care. They wanted to hear about that stuff. And even at the Dave and Buster's, we got invited to that meeting, and that was my first Dent Wizard meeting. And the whole time I'm like, man, I hope they don't start asking me like my systems.
technical questions.
Yeah, man, and I don't know anybody yet, you know. And when I got there, they told me to introduce myself and stand up and say something interesting about myself. And I said something about I fight MMA. I just had my first MMA fight. You know, I won. You know, I was happy about that. And then I told one of the other techs was like, that's not interesting. Tell them how you used to pick up dead people. You know, and I was like, yeah, there's that, you know. And I didn't have to talk about wheels or nothing. And it was good. I just got to listen to everybody else's problems, which is kind of where I picked up on that animosity because, you know, like Chip Merkel and all these other guys have been doing it for so long, and Dent Wizard's managers seem to not really know they were more interested in filling in the frontline ready ideology and getting all the vehicles ready for one set price and introducing these bundles. Yeah, and I'm sitting back like, this sounds weird, you know, because I'm used to my wheels being piecework go, and they're talking about you're going to get paid for on vehicles you didn't even do, but you're only going to be getting paid, you know, a couple pennies for a wheel, and it's all going to average out. And the Dent guys were ready to fight, and I was new, and I don't know whose side I'm on. You know, I'm just sitting in there like, yeah, I'm just here to witness this, you know. But it was cool because they walked me into Q Auto as it was first coming on around, and I was already nervous as shit, but I had been introduced to like the painters that they were bringing in. So I had my moment without anyone else around to kind of talk to the painters and be like, oh, what's this? This is an interesting looking bottle. You know, like, what do you do with this stuff? And they start telling me what it is. And I knew that what I was using was automotive products. I just didn't have labels. So I didn't know the names of anything. So I didn't even understand the speeds of reducers. I didn't understand hardeners and clear coats. I didn't know single stage based, you know, tri-stage coats. I didn't know any of this. And for wheels, there's a lot of that, just like for bumpers and cars. You know, you got tri-stage pearls for cars, but for wheels, you got hypers. And they're all applied the same way. You got to do them in certain windows. I was guessing. This guy taught me how to get it quick, bam, go. And he had me going to 8 stores a day and hustling hard. Like 2 foot away is our rule. If they can't see it from 2 feet away, you're good. You know, like he didn't put any emphasis on quality. So in Dent Wizard, I was hoping that what I had in the bag was going to at least get me where I, started.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I don't like that, but it was kind of where I was. And I don't like it because I did it, and, I'm kind of like guilty of pretending. And, looking back as I grew, it's like, damn, I really did not know what I was doing.
Well, I mean, you can really say even that translates into PDR. I mean, we go through training, you learn everything you think, in training,
Right.
and then you get out and you still don't know what you're doing. I mean, like you can have some head knowledge, and you can have the head knowledge about the chemicals and stuff, but like you got to get out there and just work.
Right.
And that knowledge comes from just doing it, right? Just put your
Right.
head down and go to work. And so, it's probably not the best way, but it is a way.
It was my way.
Yeah.
And where I was going with the Chip Merkel, he was the first dent guy that gave me a compliment that I never forgot. And I keep it in my storage bank. Actually, I will tell customers, and I'll tell my employees this all the time. I won't tell them about the Chip Merkel whole thing. I'll just kind of summarize it into, what makes a good wheel guy? One that can fix his fuck-ups. And I'll leave it there, because that's what Chip Merkel said to me one day when he was pushing metal on a car, doing his thing, and the manager's like, we need this wheel done. And Chip was on the car. And I've never worked on a car with a dent guy on it. So I was like, oh, I'll wait my turn. And he's like, no, we need this wheel done now. And he's like, oh, the Chip's fine. You can work on the wheel. He don't care. He's got to work on the whole car. So I'm there working on this car, looking over my shoulder. I was used to like customers watching me, but this was different. This was somebody that already didn't want me there. And I could just tell he didn't even like the managers. So like, and I'm friends with the managers, not with him, so he was watching me and I'm trying to do my thing. He's a nice guy. He's not an asshole, but I could feel like, even if it was just me creating it out of nerves, I could feel like he was watching me in like a way like, this guy sucks. But I was working on the wheel, and it was a wheel that I could do, but because I was nervous, I ended up making a paint flaw, and I had to run or something, and I didn't have all the tools that obviously I have now to fix things. I was still learning how to fix my fuck-ups, but he seen the mistake, and he goes, what's that? I was like, I messed up, and he's like, oh. And then just kept doing this thing, and I was like, oh, man. So my heart's beating fast, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And, I spent a little extra time on it, and I fixed it. And then that's when he said what he said. And he's like, oh, man, what makes a good wheel guy is one that can fix his fuck-ups. Good job. He's like, I'm glad to see that. I was like, oh, my God. That was like the biggest relief, because I started to feel like because I knew for his introduction from the meeting, he's one of the top dudes as far as like time in. So I knew him liking me would help me, get stores and relationships. So that was one of those Dent Wizard moments that I kept for a long time. So I was curious if you talk to him still,
Yeah.
I'd love
We're
to.
all still friends. He has his own business in town.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he had like 100 kids.
Yes.
Yeah, one of them's dating my daughter,
Oh, no way. Who is it?
Brighton.
Brighton? I know Stratton.
He's a PDR guy.
Okay.
So 3 of his sons do PDR, right? Right now.
Stratton was just starting when I was getting in. He had the Orange Park, Tom Bush. He was working with another guy.
He has his own company now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
He left before I did. Dent Wizard.
Yeah.
So you, at this point, I would say you've come a really long way. I had no idea that you didn't know what you were doing. Like, I just
Good.
assumed you did. And
Yeah.
so, to know where you've come from and where you're at now, I just see what you're doing and thought that you had a lot to offer, the PDR community, as far as, what you're doing, where you're going. And, we could learn a lot from you. But
Well, thank you.
we want to go back to the beginning. Like, where'd you grow up? What was that like? How was your childhood? What we want to get behind who this guy is.
Yeah, man. Well, I had a lot of siblings. We had 6 kids coming in and out of the house. We were all different, and a couple different dads. I had 4 with the same mom, then stepkids that we lived with. They all helped shape me in different ways, for sure. I had
Where was this?
This was in Deltona. Mm-hmm. We were primarily in Deltona, but we moved every 2 years. We were always bouncing around. Not sure why. I didn't really ask a whole lot of questions, but it is what it is. My mom's going to be listening to this. She's going to be making sure I'm not saying anything crazy. But, I don't know what the deal was, but we moved a lot. And there was always, life coming our way. But my older brother, Michael, he kind of was an artist. He had a different dad. He was the oldest, and he was always drawing. And so I was always drawing. He played guitar, so I played guitar. I was always following in his footsteps, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. I still have all my drawings from when I was 8 years old. I have a binder this thick.
Nice.
And I keep them in my. I built a loft upstairs in my shop, and my kids have beanbag chairs and TV and stuff. And I keep my art up there. My daughter and my son, they're always drawing. I actually make my son draw if he wants to play on the VR. He has to trade me a drawing. It's like a ticket.
Nice.
So trying to keep that creativity going, because that helped me when I would hide and draw, play toys. I'd try to get away. I was good at playing by myself. Even though there was so many of us, I was better at playing by myself. Wasn't into sports, really. I was super non-athletic. I was kind of a baby, real sensitive. My brothers let me know that I was a baby and I was sensitive. So I got into plenty of fist fights with them, but never felt like I was tough or a fighter, and that's kind of what pushed me into getting beat up by them. Like my brother Daniel would sit on my chest, put my arms, his shoulder, or his knees on my arms, and pin me down, and just like, what are you gonna do now? I'm like,
Would he act like he was going to spit on you?
yeah, yes, he would, man, and smack me
Dangle
around
it
a
out
little
a little
bit, dude. Like the shit that you just you see in a movie, bullies. But he's actually
Classic brother
He's
stuff
my
right
best
there.
friend now, man, and he's actually a rocket scientist. He's
What?
he's worked for Lockheed Martin, United Launch Alliance. He works right now for Blue Origin for Bezos, trying to get all his projects done.
Wow.
And he is a whole different
Wow.
story of dedication, man. We worked together at a restaurant before I started doing wheels, and he worked himself through school. He did everything on his own. Like I said, we're all different. Like all of us are different, extremely different. But me and
How
him,
much older is he?
he is 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty much all 2 years apart for the most part. And he really did his thing, man. But as far as life goes, he's not happy. He's not satisfied. And he's doing all these awesome things, and the only time he feels satisfied is when he's accomplishing a project at work and stuff. And it's like his home life, he's not satisfied. There's something missing, and he's talking to me, and I'm trying to, he sees my shop, and like my kids are running around there, and I'm working. My kids are there. They're coming up to me, asking, I'm involved. I feel like that's something that he's not getting, the time with it. I'm ranting now, but my brother means a lot to me, especially him, because he definitely will always remind me that, look how far you've come with nothing. You didn't even know what you were doing, and look what you got now, And it's like we went from, I've been barely making any money for so long, just trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. But that's when Dent Wizard really changed my life, though, because they flew me to Missouri, taught me how to straighten wheels. And learning how to straighten wheels was a big deal. But the one thing they didn't teach me was structural integrity, safety inspections, the non-destructive testing, things that matter in wheels, you know what I mean? So I'm safely repairing wheels. They didn't teach me any of that, so I've been learning that as I go. But overall, just, the impact that my brother had on my life is pretty big still to this day. He actually lives like 5 minutes from my shop. I live 30 minutes from my shop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I bought my first house 3 doors down from him, and we lived on the street together. And then when I got the opportunity to go to Mannheim in Atlanta for Dent Wizard, I rented out my house and I went. And then I ended up selling the house to start my business in Georgia, took the money and just ran up there away from no geographical contracts. And I started my business from scratch. And, that was fucking difficult. But I lost my house. That was not a war. It wasn't, in my brain now, it wasn't really worth the cost, because I came back to no house. Now I'm figuring that out all over again. But yeah, man.
So what kind of student were you when you were young? Were you making good grades, or were you bored at school, or what?
My art teachers really liked me. Yeah, I was really good there. They would hang my pictures up in their classrooms and stuff, and it'd make me feel good. And I wanted to be there because I felt like I was appreciated there. But overall, academics, I'm kind of dumb. Yeah, I don't have a good. I didn't put enough reps in and learning numbers the way that I should have, or just certain academic knowledge kind of went out the window. I was really good at figuring my way home, Like if I got lost, that was something that I got good at figuring out.
What do you think the reason why, like just going back to the whole school experience, what do you think was the missing element there for you?
Well, my whole elementary career, I had a speech impediment. So I was in like special speech therapy classes, and I'm pretty sure having siblings kind of didn't help my confidence. So I just don't think that I had the confidence to think that I was even capable of being good in school. So I just never applied myself. If I'm, being real about it, I'm pretty sure it was just me not thinking I could do it. And I kind of, if you think that, that's what's gonna kind of happen. So if I would have had somebody that wasn't just being like, you good who you are, you just do the best you can, which my mom was very much that way, which out of her big heart, do the best you can. We're not expecting the world, we just want you to try. And I would just give very minimal effort because I would rather get home, watch some Dragon Ball Z, draw, play toys. School was not, I did not like it. No.
So just not interested in school.
Not
really.
interested in it at all. No. Got into a couple fights and I didn't like that either. So I dropped out in 9th grade. And it was because I kept getting in the fights and I didn't even know why. Like it was just, I don't know if there's something going on internally, but I was also picking up dead bodies in 9th grade. So I was like, I don't even need this place.
Yeah.
I was out of here. I'm going to go be a forensic pathologist. I'm going to go take college courses, and all that shit didn't work out either.
Yeah.
So you're getting in fights and you're in 9th grade. Had you started training any kind of martial arts yet? When did that start?
Well, I say no. That's kind of when it started. I was doing YMCA was down the street from my high school, and I did a lot of skateboarding and bike riding around and Votran trips. So I was kind of I had friends that I grew up with that were living in Orange City and DeLand, and I was in Deltona. So I kind of figured out how to jump around without my parents taking me since they're always busy. But I found the boxing at the YMCA. So I started hanging out with
Boxing.
Yeah.
That was your first.
Yeah, but it definitely wasn't my first love. Jiu-jitsu was my first like real, holy shit, this is pretty amazing as far as the development and like people you meet. Boxing was a very much different experience. I have 2 boxing experiences that I'll never forget. And, it was the Spanish people in my town, there was like some type of divide between like some sort of redneck versus Spanish crap going on, which I wasn't 100% like in the loop of. I was a freshman in high school, so there was just some ongoing drama. And I was hanging out with the boxing kids at the Y, and there was just this huge group one day as I'm walking with all the boxing kids.
Were they Hispanic kids
They were
or
all
white
Spanish kids,
Yeah.
but the big group was mainly all the white kids with the redneck trucks and like, being a little bit absurd. And I got pointed out because I was with them walking, and man, a whole bunch of chaos just unraveled. And one kid got his jaw broke, and like a bunch of craziness started happening, which like I got accused of, not sticking up for my people, which they're not my people, just because I know some of them. Kids are weird. Kids are kind of, they get stuck in those little rhythms of loyalty or whatever. But I knew I wanted to learn how to fight, because when that happened, I did not know how to fight, and that was scary. Watching all these people just start fighting out of nowhere, and I'm just learning shit. And
So it's like a rumble, right?
yeah, it was nuts.
Like
It was
10
nuts.
on 10 or whatever?
Yeah, there was a bunch of people fighting, slamming on the truck. People crawling under the trucks trying to get away. Like it
No
was crazy.
weapons, though?
No weapons, thank God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was scary, dude. It was scary. And like I got threatened a couple.
That
times.
doesn't happen anymore, meaning everyone's,
Got a weapon.
got a weapon.
How long had you been like
Just
YMCA
recently.
boxing?
Just recently.
Yeah, so
I
you just started.
Yeah, I'd just be bobbing under a rope. I wasn't even doing a whole lot of stuff, but it made me want to learn, watching all this stuff happen, and I kept learning. And then there was backyard fights going on with like a mixed group of people kind of maybe in school talking shit, and they're all linking up and they're starting to train. And we had seniors that were doing a lot of more intense training. Maybe their intentions were to try to become UFC fighters or pro athletes. And we seen them. So I started asking them like what they were doing, and Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. Wrestlers scared the shit out of me. Strongest humans, man. Gymnasts, wrestlers, strongest humans you'll ever get grabbed by. But I started learning and doing backyard fighting, and I got beat up real bad in a backyard fight. I got guillotined real quick by a kid that I fought in school and beat And
You beat him at school.
Yeah, but it was more like a bullshit fight, you know. Like,
It got broke up fast.
Yeah, and like I slapped him, didn't even know how to fight. You know, he came at me, I picked him up and slammed him against the wall or some crap, and it got broke up. So my brain, I'm like, I won. But then I see him in this backyard circle behind the YMCA, and it was in that same time frame of all that unraveling. And I've been training a little bit, trying to, you know, be strong, and I wanted to test myself, and his ass jumped up so quick. And was like, I'll do it.
He wanted that redemption.
And I was like, oh, man, I recognize this guy.
This will be easy.
He had your number.
I had already
for a
dropped
while.
out in 9th grade, too. So, like, they haven't seen me in a while. And I show up there, and he was so ready. And I didn't even know what I was doing. And I started going, and I shot in, and he guillotined me and choked me out.
Wow.
Fast.
Like out?
No, not to sleep. It was just to the point to where it could have. And I tapped. And I was just baffled. And I was like, let's go again. And we
Immediately.
went again. Yeah. I was like, let's go again. And he was cool with it. So we started going and exchanging, and it was not in my favor. You know, he was out striking me. He was hitting me. He was making me feel like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was regretting even being in it. Yeah. So that was a huge moment for me, because that kid, I thought I had his number in my brain. It was over. Like, I'm going to win. But nah, that made me really start looking for a place to train. And the backyard fights progressed, you know, and I started refereeing a lot of them. And it was a shitload of videos of me reffing all these fights that got taken down off YouTube. And
So hold on, I want to speed past this.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You fight in a backyard fight, get worked,
yeah.
and you are into it enough to where you become part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to be better.
Yeah. So, but that loss didn't make you go away and say, screw this crap.
It made me go train, and people knew it. So
It drew you in.
Yeah.
The failure
Yeah, definitely.
was like, you're
Failure's
like,
a
I'm going to
bitch.
figure this out.
For sure. And, you know, getting beat up by my brothers and then training and thinking I was figuring something
But you
out.
weren't afraid to get beat up. You weren't afraid of that.
No.
You kind of
I don't like to get
lean
beat
into
up.
it.
Yeah, I don't want to get beat up. I want to go in there and come out on the victory side, you know, but that don't always happen, and that's just life. But yeah, I was inspired to learn how to not get my ass whooped anymore. And eventually it all started clicking, you know. Crazy thing is, doing all the backyard fighting, I found friends that were extremely interested, and I was a little older than them. Some of them were on the same page. One of them I used to live with when I was 4. And we came up, they started kickboxing on the local circuits. So I became like a corner man, hype man. I was going to every single fight with them. And they were minors. They weren't able to fight amateur MMA. So they were doing all these kickboxing fights. And I went to every one, helped corner, helped warm them up. I found a gym. It got serious. And I became more known for being associated with them because they were fighting. I was just training. They were fighting in the cage, in the ring. So that's when like shit started to really come together, but they started with me in the backyard, and that's kind of how we started all together. And me getting beat up kind of pushed me into like, I'm not going to go fight. I'm going to go train. They were fighting, and then they would fight and would train a little bit, party, and go fight. They weren't taking it serious. But I wish they did, because Austin, he was the #1 ranked MMA fighter in the Southeast as an amateur, and he had the most potential to make it pro. And every time he fought, the commentators were always like impressed with him. And, you know, he fell off and had a rough go. But because of those guys, I kept going. Because
Who was this?
Austin McCrae. Yeah, I'm actually about to go to Louisiana and corner him. Who I was training with last night. Why I feel like I got hit by a truck today. Yeah, because he's got an opportunity. He's been running his business, and now he's sober, and you know, life kicked him in the balls, and rightfully so. He deserved it. He did a lot of things he shouldn't have. But now he's got an opportunity to go fight on UFC Fight Pass in New Orleans, the weekend of Holloway and Poirier retirement fight in Louisiana, the night before. And I'm going to go corner him. And it's like old times, you know, and I'm excited as hell for that. But going back to the past, just that group of people, 3 of them in particular, I kept in my contacts, and we always trained together. I moved 2 of them to Georgia when I moved to Georgia into a fighter's house just so they can have opportunity. Like, I've been on them for years just trying to make them want it as bad as I wanted them to have it. And, you know, my wife gets upset with me because I put too much into people that don't, you know, give it all their go, and I'm giving them all my energy and they're not giving all theirs. But I think finally I'm getting some return on that, watching him grow like this. And I get to go corner him, so I'm pumped about that. But yeah, I forgot the original question, but yeah, that was definitely a lot.
You drop out.
Yeah.
You're helping your mom with her business, and you're doing these fights. What was you're doing boxing at the YMCA.
Not long. Yeah.
And then you go straight to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I straight into kickboxing actually,
Kickboxing.
because that was the only school around where Kagan, the kid I used to live with, he had the most potential. He jumped on the scene in the backyard and just knocked a dude out with a head kick. And then he fought a dude that was 220 and he was like 140 pounds and he lit him up like a Christmas tree. And it was like, holy shit, Kagan, where have you been, bro? I haven't seen you since we were little. And he's like, oh, I've been training here. And he actually fought with a broken jaw.
Wow.
Because he was getting surgery the next day and he didn't want to miss the opportunity to go fight. And I was like, you're crazy, bro. Anyways, but yeah, that was a big deal. That made him super popular. But that popularity comes with bad decisions, and everybody gets hooked into the wrong shit. What was the question again?
No, I think you answered it.
All right, my
okay,
bad.
so you're a teenager, you're doing this, you're working with your mom, and then at what point did you meet your wife? And how old were you guys when you got married?
I met her, originally I met her when I was 16 at the beach, and I didn't even know it was her.
What beach would you go to?
New Smyrna. Yeah, and I had my truck and a couple of my friends that weren't fighters, but I was kind of involved already, obviously. We were all at the beach, and we met her and her sister, and they wanted to get alcohol, but my wife wasn't talking. It was just her sister. That's how I didn't really realize it was her, but 4 dudes, 2 chicks. I was driving, and I just wasn't having the animosity. So when we said, yeah, sure, we'll go meet you at the store, I just kept going and pissed my friends off pretty bad. I didn't want to deal with it, but it's crazy because it ended up being my wife, right? And we met again at Mickey Finn's, and I recognized her sister.
Because you weren't trying to compete
for
these girls.
I wasn't. I wasn't there for that. It's just they saw opportunity, and they were trying to, think with the wrong head, and I just didn't care for all that noise.
Yeah.
But we would go to wing night at Mickey Finn's, and I see the sister.
That's in New Smyrna?
In Orange City. Uh-huh. It's not there anymore. It's a Mexican place. But I seen the sister, and you can recognize this crazy lady because she got big old eyes, and like she looks like Bucky on the sign for Buc-ee's.
Big eye Bucky?
Yeah, bro. And like she's very distinct,
like
bro.
Bucky.
Like you can see her and I recognized her immediately. But my wife, I didn't, because she was wearing big old sunglasses that day, and she wasn't talking to none of us. The sister was doing all the talking. So I see her, I was like, oh shit, I recognize that girl. And my friend
That's Big-Eyed Bucky.
That's Big-Eyed Bucky Brianna, man, and
her name starts with a B too.
Yeah, man. And I tell my friend, hey, that's that girl. And then it all kind of unraveled. I ended up realizing that her sister was there too, and we started talking, and she had a boyfriend, but I didn't really care. We had MySpace, and I was reaching out to her on the MySpace. And dude, I was persistent.
You're playing the long game.
Yeah, bro, I was persistent, dude. She was really beautiful. She still is very beautiful. She's hearing impaired, so it's very challenging because she wears hearing aids, double hearing aids now. She's supposed to when she was young, but she didn't. So I could be talking to her, and I think she's just giving me the old "fuck you," like I'm not paying you any mind. But no, she probably just didn't hear me. So, looking back now, it kind of makes me laugh, but trying real hard. And now I'm like, damn, she didn't hear any of that shit, spitting all the game,
You thought she was playing hard to get.
Yeah, I thought she was playing hard to get, man. But, she had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend I knew from the group of the fighters that we were all hanging out with. So I was like, oh, man, she's got a boyfriend. It's whatever. I'm going to keep, talking to her. But one day she called me for a ride, and that was it. As soon as I got her in my car, I won her over.
What kind of car did you have?
I had a GMC Jimmy. It looked like one of the Blazers, and it had a giant tap-out sticker on the back window that took up the whole thing. Yeah, dude. I was 14 years old when I got tap-out tattooed on the back of my leg.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I was like, everybody knew me for being involved in that, and that tap-out sticker got me in so much trouble, bro. But hey, she liked it, and I was able to win her over, and I kept her all this time. She's my number one. She's my best tech at the shop. She runs all my equipment. She's everything to me.
Wow.
Yeah,
So she's active in the business.
Yeah, we went through our ups and downs, moving back and forth, trying to figure out which direction we were going. She's a hell of a mom. Like, our kids are very lucky, to have her.
How old were y'all when you got married?
Shit. I'd have to ask her that. I was just living in the moment. I don't even know how old I was. Had my first kid when I was 20. She was pregnant when I was 19, and we were together since we were 16. But we got married in our 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been together since you were 16.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Saying it out loud, it's like, yeah, it was a long ass time.
How old are you now?
32.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. 32, and I think I'm about to be 33 coming up.
So
Okay.
you've been fighting for almost 20 years then.
Yeah, training. I like to say instead of fighting. I'm 4-1 in MMA. I took my first kickboxing fight after my first MMA loss. Actually, I gathered up all the balls and the money to sponsor the whole event. I got offered a title fight. I was undefeated, but I fight every 2 years because I don't fight for money. I don't fight for anything other than confirmation of my own skill set. And I felt like every time I fought, I sucked, and I was winning, but just barely. It wasn't like anything to beat, other than one I had a real good moment with. But every time I was like, man, I was way too tired too fast. I didn't do the combinations I threw, made me look like a bitch. I got to get better. So I trained my ass off, and I got in really good shape, like killer shape, and had an opportunity to sponsor the event. I spent a couple grand on putting my logo on the cage, on the canvas. It was big. I was pumped, and I lost.
What event was this?
Combat night.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a combat night, and the event I think was in Kissimmee. I don't even remember now, but
I think I remember seeing this online.
yeah, man, that one broke my heart, dude. Because everything until then, almost looking back, seemed to have come easier, and like I was able to accomplish it all. And like when my dad died, I took a fight. And like for him, I fought, and I beat one of the top dudes coming up out of one of the biggest schools around, Fusion Excel. And I wasn't supposed to win that fight, and I won. And I had the same energy going in. Like, yeah, my dad didn't die, but fuck, man, like I put everything into this, and like all this money and time and training and sacrifice, and then I go in there and get hurt. It wasn't like the dude beat me. I even feel like the promoter helped me. I feel like the promoter picked somebody that my skill set dominated because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy with a little bit of striking, and I'm 4-0, and he picked a dude that was like 1-0 that I could confirm. He said he was 2-0, but I could only find one match. The guy didn't seem to have a whole lot of credentials. Why is he fighting for a title? And I was like, screw it. Done. I'll take it. You know, this is a good moment for me. And I went in there and...
Were you overconfident, you think?
I was definitely confident. I wouldn't say overconfident. I think I was like in the right mind because I was going in there to perform. I wasn't going in there to try to get a win as fast as possible. In every other fight, that's my mindset. I got to get in there and win because I got to hurry up because I only got so much time with my cardio. My cardio's never been good. But this one, I felt more prepared, and I was trying to have like a 2-stage process of first round, pick them apart, second round, take him down and just beat on him until I can find a sub. And I wanted to end every round if I was on top with a takedown. And that's kind of where I was. First round, I'm leg kicking, I'm chopping down this tree. He had about 6 inches of reach on me, but I was chopping his legs down, and like I had sold a lot of tickets, and it was really good, and I felt good. I shot in, I run the pipe, I turn, and he did not want to be on the ground with me. So he boa constricted, squeezed all his might, trying to keep me from breaking posture and you know, moving forward and advancing. And I got caught up in a weird position as he was squeezing, so I tried to turn my body, and my rib popped, and it scared the shit out of me. And they thought I got guillotined, but he wasn't choking me. He was just squeezing me to where I tried to move, and it popped my rib. You know, when you hurt your muscle or a joint, it gets real hot around the area. That's what started happening, and he was still squeezing, and I couldn't really move. So I thought I broke it, so I tapped. And then as soon as he let go of me, I took a big breath, and it didn't kill me to breathe, and I knew I didn't break it, and it pissed me off so bad. It kind of destroyed me there for a minute. Like I just gave up is how I look at it. I just gave up.
I've had that happen. I've had a rib pop. That's not fun.
What does that mean?
Flop.
Like the
pops out of
cartilage
place
around your rib. I'm sorry. One of the just what happened to me, I never went and got checked because once I could breathe, I wasn't about to go spend the money on getting checked unless I couldn't breathe. If I felt a stab, that means my rib popped out and my lungs are like exposed and I can't breathe because it's expanding against a sharp point. And I've dealt that before when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So once I knew it wasn't that, it was just something that just has to heal on its own. It took me about 2 months to heal it to where I could train again. And then I started training again, and then I took a kickboxing fight just to fire myself back up. But yeah, I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but all that definitely led up to there.
So combat night, you know, White Rice? You know Daniel?
I don't know.
Combat night, the event, he is like the media guy. He's running around with the camera.
Okay, yeah, I don't know a whole lot of their crew now. Mitchell Chamali was my first introduction. He's the owner.
Yeah.
I used to train with him back in the day, so
Okay.
getting involved with them was more through the fighters instead of like the events. But
Have you been
Ramsey,
to a recent one?
I haven't been to one in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. They're definitely stepping up their game constantly, always, which is why I love Mitchell. Mitchell's one of my mentors. He actually tried to talk me out of not going to Georgia and selling my house, and he kind of fired me up the opposite way. And I took his advice and ran the opposite direction with it. You know, I was listening to a Grant Cardone book, the 10X rule, when I was trying to figure out how to move forward, and I sold my house against his advice, and it pissed him off. But I was you want to say, motivated to 10X everything. And that was the only money I could see that I could get is selling a house and getting money from it, which I regret. Sorry, Mitchell.
So walk us through. So you start doing wheels, you get hired with Dent Wizard, and that's when you really started learning the craft.
Yeah, Dent Wizard, definitely.
So yeah, walk us through your career from kind of there all the way to where you're at today.
Yeah, so introducing the whole structural thing, bends, that was something that was no from the other company. So that was cool to feel like I'm learning something outside of what I learned. But then learning from the painters how to paint, that was cool. I met a guy, Sean, I'll say Maxwell maybe is his
Maxfield.
name? Maxfield. He was really good to me. They sent me down to a auction down south, and I met him. And he pretty much, excuse me, told me that I need to stop using an airbrush. I need to start using a mini jet. I need to start doing this. If I want to get good, I got to do this. And he started just running me through all these ways of like understanding what the hell I was doing. And he didn't give a shit if what I knew. So it didn't matter. It was, this is the way that you're going to be better. Do it this way. At least try. And I listened, and it worked. And as soon as I impressed him, and he was like, hey, this guy's got it. Like,
I didn't know he did wheels. I mean, that dude's been painting forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was more the paint process
Yes.
that he introduced to me, because the paint process is the same for most things. So I learned that, and then meeting.
You learned the chemicals.
Yeah, I learned what, like a no-bake clear coat, and like, you know, what ratios I'm mixing and things like that. He was showing me these, but you know, every product's got different ratios, so I was able to play dumb, like, oh well, I didn't know what ratio, because read the instructions, bro. You know, it's like, okay, I'll just read the instructions, easy enough.
That's what he told you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the sheet. You know, just it's 1-to-1. It's 4-to-1. It's read the sheet. You know, so I learned how to mix. Dent Wizard had trailers stationed in certain areas, and they had mixing banks in them with scales and shit. So I was learning how to mix up paint, but I only had a little beer case with 6 bottles in it with the other guy, and I just had toners. So, and I knew how to mix those toners together to make the tone that I need blendable. If I can make it blendable where you can't see it, it's a win. So getting access to these trailers, and there's like 50 cans of toners in front of me. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I started just trying to find the ones that looked familiar, and I did that. And it worked really well. And I was able to go out there and do it, and the Dent Wizard guys were super nice to me. They took care of me. One of them let me sleep at his house a couple times because I lived far, and I was out there trying to, like he said, hustling up, trying to build some routes, trying to, you know, get that momentum.
Yeah.
And it was working. But then, you know, we were having fires that were being set by managers, in my opinion, that were not properly being extinguished, and it was kicking back on us, and it was making it hard for my route to maintain, because they went in there and promised all the world, and then they can only deliver a fraction of it. And then managers like, your company's already a disappointment, we're going to not use you guys, you know, whatever. It was just bad management or bad structure, bad policy, whatever they were doing. So they ended up giving me a chance to go to Atlanta to Mannheim, and I met Dave Redding. Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, super crazy cool dude. Nobody's been hired on at the Mannheim there since they established their position there. There was just 2 techs. Mark Shoemake, I think is his name, was the guy that kind of took me under his wing and showed me like this is how you do it. And it was just wheels and bumpers. And it was nuts because they had just cars lined up, and like you walk out there with the scanning tool and you can scan it and it'll tell you what it is, and you can look at it and be like, oh, that's gonna take way too long. You go scan the next one. Oh, I like this one. You get there early enough. Like that's what they would do. So I was learning how to. Obviously, I was the runt. I got all the bad shit, and they got to kind of cherry pick. But eventually, I was like hoping that I would only go there when we were slow in Jacksonville. So I would go out there quite often at the end of it, and then Redding was like, do you want a full-time position? I was like, I don't know if I can move here. I kind of touched on that before. I rented my house, and I went. And it worked out real good. Like, I got good there. I was painting bumpers. There was one wheel guy that would go out there, and just recently, before I moved out there, I heard a story that he did 30 wheels in one day. I said, bullshit, there's no way. But everybody was talking about it. He did it, and I only met him twice, and he was kind of an arrogant guy. Real nice dude, but Mr. like, I'm the man, and I wanted to be the man. So like I was very like driven to beat him. And yeah, I did 32 wheels that night and leave there till 4 a.m. But they let you stay as long as you wanted. There was no like time. Like the place was 24 hours. So I broke a record, and I told everybody that I could about it. I was like, I beat him. It didn't fucking matter. No one cared, but I cared. Like it made me feel like now I'm the best wheel guy, even though I probably did a lot of bad wheels that night.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that was at Mannheim?
That was at Mannheim, yeah. Yeah, I'd love to talk to Dave. I know he was upset that I left because I was doing good there, and like we were doing good. There was no reason for me to leave, but.
What year would that have been, roughly?
Man, I hate that I can't remember years, and everything kind of blends together. My kids were 3 and 2.5. Shit. Let's just say 2017, 2018. I'm not even sure anymore. I don't know. I'd have to break that down and write it out.
So how long were you with them, with Dent Wizard?
With Dent Wizard totally? Maybe 4 years, maybe. Could have been longer.
So you said you were doing good.
Doing good, yeah. I loved it. I was training every morning. There was a gym that I was going to and meeting friends, and I loved my spot. But my wife wanted to move home. And then I started going through a phase of like, I'm training. I took a fight, and I put this dude to sleep in Tennessee under this gym. And like, I was feeling like the man, like the gym was super cool and everybody was like really welcoming. And then I started going into this state of mind, like I want to pursue my dreams. I can't be held back by a family, and I've been with her since we were young, and I'm getting a different point of view. So glad I don't think like that anymore. I'm glad that I got that out of my system, but it almost cost me my marriage. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it was a close one, man. She moved back to Florida. I stayed in Georgia. I told her I was going to stay. Like, yeah, that sucked, but it all worked out.
How did you recover that?
By giving in and coming home and starting my business. Actually, I worked at the car lot, Mullinax Ford, selling cars, and I started my business because that shit was hard, and she was all for me starting my business because my wife is very, very tight with the money. Like, she was born with her fists clenched, man. She knows how to hold on to money, dude. Like, she wanted me to make more money and have more time with them, and she knew that I knew how to do wheels, so why go sell cars? That structure that they had there was kind of like a prison, bro. You didn't clock in, you sat by the door, you sat by the phone, hoping to God you get a sale. You get, pennies for a sale in comparison to other lots. Like, there's commission, charts, but at that place, you got a set price per car. You had to hustle. And I became the number 2 guy there because one of my black belt instructors worked there too. So, like, it was a very competitive environment. But I was so tired of that. Yeah, selling cars. Yeah. And then
you became number 2 in sales within how much time?
Within a few months. Yeah, but I was
Wow.
trained. I was trained by the dudes that I did jujitsu with, so like I had a competitive advantage. I feel like
Sure.
they were showing me certain things, and like keep your finger on the button when you're in the bullpen. Don't even fuck around. Like and the one dude L, his finger's on the button.
What does that mean?
So when the calls come through, if your finger's on the speaker button, you can click it first, and then that means you picked it up, and then you can pick up your phone and you can say, "Thanks for calling Mullinax Ford. This is Elwell or Garrett. How can I help you?" So I said Elwell because his ass picked up almost every call, and what he would do as a black belt strategist is he would take every single call, put them in the system under his name, and then pick whatever person he wanted to give a half a deal to. While he gives 5 half deals away, he's working 5 deals of his own, and he was making the most money. And then I was like, you're an asshole. Like, how can I even do that if you're doing it? And he never takes a day off, So I was like, I'm going to go start my business back. I learned a lot here. I learned how the back end works. I learned how dealerships hold points and all the stuff that I didn't know. I learned, and then it helped me apply my business into dealerships, and I became pretty damn good at it.
So go into that.
Yeah.
That's stuff that people would probably love to hear about.
Yeah, well, my first experience learning that they were manipulating the rates of what the clients were getting is I had a client with like an 840 credit score, and they gave him like I didn't understand the rates really. It is what you did. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. Here you go, and go into the office, sign the paper. But this guy knew who he was and knew what he had, and he said, "This rate is not me. You must have messed up." Played it back. Said, "You can go get that looked at." And I was like, "Oh, sure, no problem." I went back, and he said, "No, that's the rate. This is through Space Coast. That's the rate for that gentleman." And I was like, "Well, this guy seems to think like this rate does not match him." And he's like, "Well, you gotta get him to sign it, Garrett." And I'm like, shit, all right, well, I'm trying to work on that. Well, that was like my first taste of something's wrong. And then that deal concluded. It all worked out for him, I suppose. But the one where I learned what it was is I was sitting at the office late, I got a late sale, pretty much no one else around but 2 managers and me and maybe a door guy. And my customer is in the F&I office, and I'm waiting for him to get done signing the stuff. And my manager gets a phone call, and he answers, and he's like, okay, yep, we can do that. We'll do that. And he hangs up, and I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, it was Zach. I was like, in there? He's like, yeah. I was like, what did he want? He's like, he needed to get a point back. I was like, what does that mean? Well, in order for the customer to get the payment he was agreed that he was going to sign on and sell him all the stuff he was selling him on the back end, he needed that point back, because when I presented that rate, there was a point being held that I didn't know about. And then he was able to give it back to him, keep his payment the same, and make him feel like he won. But it was manipulated from the start, and I didn't even know. So how many cars I sold, it kind of pissed me off. Like, I didn't understand that was how it was done.
What is that? What is a point?
So they give you a rate or whatever, and whatever rate they're giving you is manipulated. Like, they're saying, all right, you got a 4, but
A 4% interest rate
4%
on the
interest rate, but
the
realistically, you got a 3, and they held a point back to where they can move.
They're
it back
making the
in.
split.
Right, and then in the back end, you're selling gap and extended warranties and protection, and they're like, sign right here, and your payment will be the same, and we can help you keep your payment. You won't be spending any extra money technically because your payment will be the same. And that was like their argument, and a lot of people went with it, but I didn't know that they had that ability, or like that's how they were doing that. So as soon as I learned that, I was kind of like turned off, because it's like customers would come in and I'd be like, you might want to go to Space Coast and just get your own loan.
Yeah.
And the managers did not like that. You didn't tell someone to come in with outside financing or whatever, because that's a no-no. They can't make money.
Was that where they were making most of the money?
I do believe so. I can't confirm that for sure, but it seemed to be a pretty big deal when a customer would come in with a pre-approval from its own financial institution. Managers would be like less willing to work with them.
Yeah. I always get pre-approval from my credit union.
Yeah.
But they're always trying to get you to get financing through there. Now, you could say whether or not they're making it on those points that he's talking about, or whether or not bringing a large number and getting kickbacks from those financial institutions.
Right. However it worked, I just saw that it was wrong.
Sure.
And it made me like, ugh, didn't like it.
Or bonuses that derive from driving it to those financial institutions. So I like if you walk in there with cash or financing, they're like, "Oh man, this freaking
You're not
sucks."
giving us any opportunity to
we
make
don't
more money.
They don't want to just sell you the car, like they do, but it's not about the car. It's about all those little other ways that they can make money
For sure.
on the other side of it.
That you just don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
And-
people
and
don't.
If you walk in there saying, "I just want to get my payment to this," I mean, you are the ideal
Right.
what do they call it, mark.
Right.
Just a payment focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
a lot of
they just
people
rub
are.
their hands together and think of how many ways they can make money off of you and manipulate it. If you just say, I just need this car at a $450 payment, or I don't even know what car I want. I just need a car to get me to work, and I need to be at $400 a month. I mean, you're just a mark. You're just asking to get
Yeah.
taken advantage of.
It's
Wow.
just one of those things.
What were some other like inner workings of the dealership that you felt like helped you start your own business, to do business with the dealers?
Well, when I went to Mullinax, I had already started my own. I think I kind of skipped a whole stage of what happened when I went to Mannheim and everything worked. I moved home and started working for another wheel company called The Wheel Guys. And when I worked for them, I learned that I didn't need to be working for them because they were pooling a lot of knowledge from me and trying to help me build their business. So I told my wife, like, I'm depressed. This isn't working. I wasn't training anymore. I was getting fat. Like, and she's seen that it was true. So I was living back in my house. So that's when I sold my house and moved there and started my own business to Georgia. And I actually started my business in Georgia with just my crew of MMA guys that I trained with in the town that I moved there with Dent Wizard to work for the Mannheim. So I came back to the same town. So I moved back and forth a couple different times. And they helped me start by lying on my paperwork that I worked there as a cardio kickboxing instructor so I can get the house. I took the cash from my house and put it into like 8 months worth of the rent so I can live there for 8 months and just try to build my business off the rest of the cash that I sold my house for. So that was how I really learned. But going from there back home and doing sales, I had a fresh idea of like how the dealerships treated me and then seeing how this dealership treated their vendors because I used to be a vendor for them for back in the day. So it was real like interesting to kind of see. Didn't really matter what the price was that we were charging them. They were putting it back onto the car. Like they had this structure of how it all worked. And just knowing that kind of pissed me off because the manager's such cheap ass to where he wants me to do everything so cheap all the time. But at the same end, it's just so he can retain what he wants to make. You know, I get it. It makes sense. But, you know, you want to keep your vendors happy too so they keep doing good work for you. If you don't let them have the price that they feel they're valued at, you're eventually going to run them off, you know. And that was something I learned was how they treat the vendors, and like there is room to negotiate on setting that price. Like that one guy I told you scratched my price off and stuff. He probably did that because he was trying to figure out how he can make more money off of me rather than me making a living off of him. And like when they have that relationship, you guys aren't gonna solidify a friendship. You're gonna more or less like dislike each other, but know you're necessary. You know, a necessary problem. This guy costs too much money, always complaining. So the dealership, that's what I learned with working in the back and in the front, being a vendor, watching the vendors come in there and knowing them and ask them how they're doing and listening to them complain about Daryl. Oh, he only approved 2 of these wheels and the other side needs it too, but he only approved the worst ones for $50 a wheel. You know, it's like, shit, I would make my money if he approved all of them and I take the good with the bad, but he only approves the bad. So like, that's a problem for us.
Sure. It's a problem for us too.
Right.
So when you were in that situation, kind of behind the scenes, what did you feel the vendors that were successful that you felt like, man, they're getting what they want. They're getting the prices that like, what was the recipe for success for those guys?
It's a relationship factor. How many stores do you have locked down that you know you can walk in and be like, hey, Fred, how's your kids? And have a conversation. Like that seems to be the success factor.
Relationship.
And then, relationship all day. Like I'm an advocate for relationship. I've been building relationships for a long time. And that's where I see like, because relationships, you know, they have a funny way of coming back. And that one person that you impacted eventually has a reason to tell a story about you, right? And then that word of mouth grows, and then people know that you're legit. And that seems to have what happened to me. It's like every couple of dudes that I make a good impression on has came back full circle. And like I've heard stories of me from people that have had stories told about me. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting to hear story of myself being told by someone like, oh, I heard this about you. It's like, oh man, yeah, that's actually true. Or that's a little fabricated, But yeah, learning just relationships from there is important, and knowing that they respect you when you value yourself. If you don't value yourself and you're like, oh, sure, you can knock my price down. Let me just let you do that to me. And then they know that they can just kind of push you around. They're not going to build a respectful relationship off that. They're going to build I got a guy that'll do it cheaper.
Well, no, they just became a bully, and you just became bullied.
Exactly.
And you know what happens with that? That just is a continual spiral down.
Doesn't go
they
anywhere
just continue to take advantage of it.
Facts.
They know how far. They know they can push you around,
Yeah.
and then they continue to do so, take advantage of that.
Yeah, that was no fun.
You got to cut that out right out of the gate.
Did you listen to I know you listened to several episodes. Did you listen to the last one when it was just me and him?
Yeah, I don't know if I got all of it because I'm listening to it while I'm working. But y'all were talking about relationships with dealerships, I think. And
so someone asked, basically he was trying to get more dealerships, like a newer tech, but he was striking out with trying to get franchise dealers.
Right. And I think what you said was on point. You're going in there and trying to make a friend. Like, if you do that instead, I'm trying to go get a wheel from these people, go in there and make a friend and move on and just keep making that consistent. If you do it every week, great. If you do it every other week, no problem. They're only going to remember you for the amount of times that you show up and pester them, but not pestering in a sense of being demanding, but just, hey guys, I'm here if you need me. How are you doing today? How's your sales? You guys busy? Awesome. I'd love to see y'all busy. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you around. If you need anything, just call me. I'm always around. That's it. And if you can do that, I started with the detailers and the lot porters. Those were my primary focuses because I know managers depended on them to get things ready. So if they end up saying, oh, my guy's gone and I don't have a wheel guy or whatever, the porter would remember me because I made friends with them guys. So that's a real good strategy, what you said in general. Just going in there and being super friendly and making friends and not expecting work, just expecting you to introduce yourself to multiple people. That was legit.
Okay, so you start your business and you worked at the Ford dealer down here, and then you said, I'm over this, I'm starting my own business, and you started it in Georgia, and so you were kind of going back and forth? Or did your family move up there with you?
Yeah, we moved up there together again after we moved back. In 2017, that's what the wheel deal since 2017. That was the day that I decided this is it. I'm gonna do this. Absolute Wheel Repair. My brother, he's the one that kind of tested me on the name because my dumb ass wanted to be the Rim Reaper. Bring your dead wheels back to life without the killer price, bro. I had this whole elaborate scheme and I thought it was so cool. And then my brother's like, bro, you will not get nowhere with that name. I'm like, why? He's like, man, that's a whole different industry. You don't even want to talk about. And I was like, I don't understand. And now I actually use it a lot, the Rim Reaper and the best rim jobs around. I use it because of the funniness of starting it was difficult because that's how I didn't have it in a dirty mind. It wasn't a joke. I was just trying to come up with something clever. But now I use it. I read a book called The Purple Cow from Seth Godin, and he talks about, the thing that makes you look twice, the kind of like the philosophy of the book. And the best rim jobs around has seemed to be my Purple Cow, and I added the Rim Reaper to it. I changed the image. My brother slapped a sticker on my van of the Rim Reaper licking the butt. Have you ever seen the rim job sticker? It's super...
No, haven't seen it.
He slapped it on my van, and then I modified it and put a rim in his hands instead of a butt. And I use that on merchandise now, and people think it's hilarious. And that's my Purple Cow, is just using that inside joke with people. But yeah, it's building the business has been multiple stages of doubting and failing, but I was successful in Georgia. I built a route and it worked. Moving back and doing the sales and then opening back up in 2019, I had a whole different idea on how I wanted to do things. And I was trying to build a route.
Because of how it went in Georgia?
Yes, it was very good in Georgia.
Talk us through how you built that in Georgia.
Door knocking, man. Same thing, building relationships. And I was a fighter at your local MMA gym. And that was our conversation. And one of the owners of a Toyota dealership in town was trained by my coach. So I went in there shooting the shit with Walt. How's you doing, man? Like, I'm talking MMA, talking about the weekend fights that happen, you know, and eventually relationships go and they give me work. And then they knew dude down the street, send me in there. And then I was super heavy on social media, trying to push what I do. And it worked. And I started getting momentum, but I had reserved cash from selling the house. So we became real comfortable, and I was training all the time and competing and fighting, and it was good.
How long did it take before you felt like, okay, this is happening, this is working, like we're gonna do
After
this?
I got my trailer, like I was doing it out of my van like I did originally, and then I bought my first trailer with the cash, and I put stickers on it, and then once I had a trailer with my name on it, I felt like, oh shit, this is it. It's actually
Legit.
yeah, like people were gonna see me just driving now. Like,
How many months?
It was probably about 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 months of knowing I could get work before I continued to invest into my idea. So yeah, that was interesting for sure.
I
But
remember when I wrapped my van, it's kind of the same thing. Like,
felt good, didn't it?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we did a photo shoot with it. You and I,
Yep.
my van all wrapped.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's that next gear. You know,
It's like symbolic.
In your
Yeah.
head or physically, whatever it is, it's the next gear, and you're like, okay, like constant forward progress. There
Right,
we
and
go.
that's progress. That's that word right there, man. I live on that word. Jiu-jitsu, it's all progress. The way that I structure the way my mind works is continual progress. I have to have progression throughout the day in a positive way. Even though everyone has a couple setbacks a day, I try to progress through the setback, and it usually gets me, you know, where I need to be.
Try to be better than I was yesterday.
Yeah, man. And no, it's cliche or corny, and you know, you can say all these things, but it's true as fuck. I like to listen to Stoic philosophy every morning because when I wake up, I wake up anxious, and I don't know if it's because I've set such a high bar for myself, and I continuously am trying to reach something that I can't even jump and touch. Like I have to go, and I have such bad, like I say bad, but manageable, so it's not that bad. I can manage it. But I wake up just this morning, like I was saying when we got here, I woke up late, freaking out, because I'm always already waking up late, freaking out. But then today I had a real reason to be freaking out because I was an hour and a half away. Usually I wake up at 4:35 in the morning, and I just want to be at the shop before 6. And if I wake up in a 30-minute transit and I can't be there at 6, I'm driving them. Trying to get there. I'm like, hurry up, I gotta get there, I gotta open up, and I gotta set up everything. And that's where I run into my, you know, internal issues with how I structure everything. Is like I always feel behind, always. And I gotta figure out a way to manage it, which I think I have a little, but I feel like it never goes away.
I think one of the strongest lesson that I've learned from jiu-jitsu is that slowing down, meaning physically, mentally, your breathing, everything allows you to make better decisions. Like that, the other end of that, which is being nervous, anxiety, you know, all these things, spastic, makes you make bad decisions.
Facts.
Right?
100%.
And so, like, I'm, you know, when any decision, you know, the things that happened last night, whatever things that are going on, it's like the knee jerk is, oh my gosh, you know, everything's unraveling.
I gotta do something right now.
I have to react to this. And I think the better thing, even in jiu-jitsu, is like slow down, process the information in a way that you can accurately make a decision.
Right.
Which is hopefully the appropriate decision, not the wrong decision. In jiu-jitsu, there's an immediate interpretation of that. Like you can immediately do something, and then you see the result instantly that was a bad decision, right? As opposed to like, so if you can interpret life or, you know, so every morning for me, I get up, like I'm just my routine. I wake up, I'm the only one up. I put my contacts in immediately because I can't see nothing without those. And then my dogs are literally standing at my side wanting a cookie. And so I walk into the kitchen, give my dog a cookie, let him outside, make my coffee, and sit there at my counter, you know, not on the couch, at my counter, like, and drink my coffee and just kind of collect.
But you have a kind of repetitive way that you start your day.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about business. Like, I mean, my phone is ringing at 7, and I'm not answering it. I mean, because we open at 9, and I think it's very easy to get sucked into, like, just, you know, Ted, we're working, but you haven't worked on yourself.
Right.
You know, and even if it's scrolling through Instagram, I'm like looking at a cat video like we're talking about. Like it's just taking a minute to process or relax and to start your day. For me, that works. You know, I mean, I'm not judging yours
100%.
in a way that is
Mine's in
wrong.
chaos. Yeah. And I'll tell you why mine's in chaos.
Yeah.
You know, and you're using jiu-jitsu as an example, which I love because I'm a brown belt. I've been training my whole life. I feel like more than half my life. And to become responsive rather than reactive is the key, right?
Sure.
And that's I like a jiu-jitsu quote that I kind of base things off of. You know, you can't explain normal to someone because it's subjective. So like what's normal to a spider is chaos to a fly. And that's a jiu-jitsu quote that I picked up a long time ago to help kind of rationalize situations for me because I can't expect things to go the same way it went for someone else. And that's, you know, jiu-jitsu has applied to my business constantly. The reason why I'm so anxious and behind is because I do not have a home for my family anymore. And in 2019, when I started my business, I decided, with my wife's permission, of course, we sold all of our shit and we bought a 30-foot travel trailer. And I put it on, I wasn't even gonna talk about this because this shit pisses me off. But we put it on my in-laws' land and we started the business. And we've been able to invest into the business constantly, but with the sacrifice of space. My kids having their own rooms. They've always had their own rooms. They've always had space. And now, like my littlest daughter, she took her first steps in this camper, and I'm still not out. But my wife does not want to get out because she wants to buy in the right market. So I've been able to invest into the business, which an opportunity to buy a standalone building on the main intersection of my town. I bought it. It's mine. I'll own it outright in 15 years because I live in a camper. So like everything right now is for that. So that is going to give back to my kids. But I'm battling internally. There's this divide of my kids are growing up in this. And I want to see my daughter run around her room and play. And it pisses me off.
But you know what is more important than her running around a room is growing up in a relationship that, you know, is stable,
right,
with you and your wife.
Yeah, and we
know?
have that for sure.
That I mean, like the kids will get over, you know, if they grew up in a 5-foot square room or a 20-foot square room and they had all the toys or not the toys. I think what will last longer or will be more of an impact is the relationship with the wife. But then underneath that relationship, there's the finances that affect the relationship, right?
Right.
Like all that. I mean, like
You're just trying to be a good provider,
right? And I
you
feel like I'm
you're
not.
slacking.
Well, I would challenge you in
Please.
that because like I have a house that I own and it's a decent, not a big house, but it's a decent sized house with the yard and the place where kids can run around and do the things that they want to do and a pool and things. But we lived on the road in an RV, 6 of us, most of the year.
Right.
Right? We had Christmas in the RV. We had Thanksgiving cooking turkeys in my Traeger out front of the RV. We had Halloween in the RV. Like we were doing birthdays.
Right.
We had friends come over and celebrate birthdays in the RV and outside of the RV. Some of their best friends on the road were in the RV park. Right. That were temporary
So
friends.
you understand. I've been living in it for 5 years.
So I do. I mean, I can't say I've never lived in it for 5 years, but I lived in it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
That sucked too.
my kids were raised essentially on the road in that. And it's only going to make them value whenever you do hit that next gear, a house or whatever that is. They're going to value that even more. Because it's like, oh wow, look at the space we had before. Now we have all this space, so they'll value it more. But again, the thing is the stable home.
Right.
So let's just reverse my scenario and say, Dad was out on the road chasing,
Right.
and Mom was home with the kids in the big house, and we don't have this stable relationship, or we have a long distance relationship with the wife, with the kids. I'm doing what I got to do to provide them a good, big home to run around, but that requires me being on the road. Then, you know, they're going to have this nice big house, but they're going to have this deteriorating relationship over time with either their father or between the two.
Man.
So I would just encourage you, forget that noise as far as like listen, just go back 100 years, man. We didn't have houses this big that we run around in now, and families were fine. Look at Little House on the Prairie, where they were all raised in one, watched Dances with Wolves with my wife the other day, and everybody's sleeping in a teepee.
Sharing the bathwater.
The husband and wife are making love right there, and the kids are laying on a thing. They're covered with a buffalo hide, but like that's just small spaces. Large families were raised in forever.
Yeah, my son's 12 now.
Yeah.
And I'm watching a change in him. And when I remember when I was 12, and I'm seeing him grow into this. I don't know how to explain it without being negative. I'm not trying to be negative on my boy. I love my son, but I'm constantly hitting him with like life situations now because he's got to start thinking about this. He's at school. He's in middle school. In middle school, I was fighting. I was getting in trouble. I was doing bad shit. And I'm like hoping to God that he sees the example of everything we're doing. My father-in-law told me my son sees it all. And he was talking to him about it, and it made me feel like, all right, this isn't going to the wayside. He sees that we're hustling, we're building, we're creating this whole new way of things, and he's got a part of it. But when I see him at the shop, I can't even like incentivize him to want to help me work and learn. And he's 12, and when I was 12, I wanted to learn to do shit so I can make money and buy a skateboard, and like he doesn't even want to learn how to make money. And I'm like worried that his mindset is like not there, and I'm trying not to be overbearing, but like I'm struggling with that right now.
My oldest son is not motivated by money at all. But he is the best people person. He's motivated by relationship. He does not care anything about hustling for money, but like he will give you his full attention, and that's what he's after, is like he loves people.
Right.
So but I would not change. I mean, I'm so proud of him, and I don't want him to change because I've come to appreciate, like, dude, he probably has a much better life in a lot of ways because of that, because he's not motivated like that. And
right.
Because so my wife and I were talking about this. She teaches a math class at the school that our kids go to.
Oh, sweet.
And they just had a meeting, and they're talking about, and she's like, they're seventh graders. And she's like, how am I supposed to make these kids learn math? Like, they don't care about math. And like, and I said, you don't make anybody learn math. If you're excited about something, you pursue that, and you invite them to come with you. You don't try to push them uphill to like, y'all need to do this, and nag them and force something on them. You almost like bring them along with you. Right?
That can be hard, but I understand what you're saying for sure. I see that being the better way, 100%.
But I would be willing, if he's not money motivated, I bet he's relational.
Every repair shop owner knows insurance claims slow everything down. Enter claimconnection.io. Experts in writing CCC estimates and submitting claims that stick. They'll fight for every dollar while you do what you do best: quality repairs and making customers happy. Claimconnection.io. Relentless claim support so you can fix more dents, make more money, and stress less.
Still wrangling spreadsheets and scribbling estimates by hand? Say no more. Mobile Tech RX gives you everything in one slick app. Estimates, job tracking, QuickBooks integration, and more. It's built to help recon pros work smarter, ditch the admin grind, and get paid faster. Start your 5-day free trial at mobiletechrx.com.
And I think you're right. My father-in-law took him to Colorado or it was somewhere with the mountains and skiing. And I've never been skiing or anything, nothing cool, but he took him, and he said that he was there and it was hard to keep him inside. From dusk to dawn, the dude was wanting to go out there and practice. And I'm like, Bryant? He was wanting to be outside in the snow and did not want to come in and wanted to keep practicing something. He kept falling. Like, that don't sound like him. He's usually the first one to be like, this. If I don't get it right away, it's not for me. And that's a bad mindset for me to see as a father, my son act that way, and then not try to intervene, and try to teach him not to think that way. And then I feel like because I'm trying to get him to think this way, he's now learning to think another way that I don't understand. And you read books and you learn this history of father-son divide, not understanding each other. And you don't want to be that. You want to figure out a way to understand him and not push your problems into his life, but understand his problems and help him with them. And I don't feel like I have enough time with him to understand his problems. And when I ask him, he doesn't tell me things. He oh, don't worry, Dad. You got enough to worry about. And I'm like, oh, man, bothers me.
Pedro, you ever heard of Pedro Sauer?
I don't know.
He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's a black belt. He's a coral belt.
Oh, okay.
He's up in North Carolina. I forget the lineage, but he's anyhow, he talks about invisible jiu-jitsu and just talking about, before the fight, like just the verbal jiu-jitsu. There's lots of things you can do that doesn't before even the physical jiu-jitsu comes, right? Or even when you're in the physical jiu-jitsu, there's little things that you can implement. But my point in bringing that up is my kids hate math. I mean, if you talk about algebra or division or multiplication, it's I don't want to think about that. But you know what they're into right now? Sports betting. They're looking into that, UFC sports betting. You know what they're into? Fantasy football, stats, all those things.
Number games.
They're starting to dabble into investing, day trading type thing. That's where the interest.
Okay.
So it's that's that invisible jiu-jitsu where it's you're getting them to do something that they don't know that they're doing it. Right?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So it's if you sit them down and say we're gonna do some algebra or we're gonna do some fractional whatever, and they're like, oh man, I'm out of this. But if you talk about, hey, what are the odds that this guy's gonna get, a knockout in the first 3 rounds,
right.
And you start having them do that, they're doing the math, but
right.
you've tricked them into doing it in some other ways.
Being a damn mind ninja.
Yeah, and also just knowing just because they're not doing, in my opinion, which I think is maybe a little fringe, but just because they're not doing book algebra or not algebra book smart doesn't mean that they're not going to be math smart. Right. They will pick up math. They're going to pick it up in another way potentially. They're not going to know the square root of whatever. I don't know, but they're gonna
figure it out
out
of necessity.
Right. Out of necessity in a way that they're interested in.
And where they can apply it.
So going back to the school, I was horrible at school. Horrible. I just wasn't interested. I think I'm a great student. I think I'm a great learner. I think I'm a great listener. I think I'm somewhat smart or apt, but I didn't do good in school at all. And I don't feel like I hit things that interested me, that created an environment where I can learn, right? So it's creating the environment that the person can learn and doing this invisible jiu-jitsu that tricks them into learning in that environment things that they normally don't want to learn out of that environment, right?
Right. Yeah, every house I've ever lived in, I've had mats in my living room. And then when I bought my first house, I built a cage in my garage because I was training with all my friends and I had my kids training. And my son has always trained since he was a baby, on the mats, hitting pads, grappling. He competed his first tournament at 4 years old against 5-year-olds, won 3rd place. He said, I want a sword. And then as soon as he won a medal, he retired. And I was like, yeah, I thought you wanted a sword. He's like, oh, this is fine. I was like, oh no, this isn't good. You gotta want the sword, son. Let's keep training. And he's like, I'm okay. And then my wife was like, just let him figure it out. He doesn't want to train. You can't make him train. So I just try to be dropping slights of hey, well, I'm going to the gym. If anybody wants to come, and I'd try to get him to want to come. Maybe one of his friends was there. He'd be like, oh, is Jace there? I'm like, maybe. I didn't confirm or deny, and he'd ride with me, and he'd be either happy or disappointed, but he didn't want to train anymore. He just lost interest. But 2 years ago, he picked it back up. He started training at Dark Wolf again at the gym I train at, and he did an in-house tournament, and he did pretty good. And then he found a friend that was training, and they actually started training together, and it was so satisfying just to see them training And I didn't have to intervene. I didn't have to do nothing. I could just see it. And then he decided he wanted to compete again. Since the first time since he was 4. Now he's 10, whatever, he wants to compete. So I took him, I coached him, and I coached him to a win, like a video game. And he never listens when I do things, but he listened, and I was so proud. So I started off with kind of like a negative outlook on like mine and my son's relationship, but that was a turning point of him deciding and me being able to take advantage of the moment and be there instead of being like, you need to do this, you need to do this. I was able to watch it unravel, and it seemed like his enjoyment was there. But then again, just like his last tournament, what did he do? That was it, Dad.
Yeah.
I'm done again. So I'm like, all right, I guess the next couple of years, we'll see if we got another tournament you want to do, I guess. I'm going to leave it at that. But, yeah, I was really proud of him that day. He made me realize that he was listening all these years. The way he did his jiu-jitsu, the way he did his pass, his sweep, everything he did, I was like, holy shit, I didn't even know he could do it like that. So, very proud moment.
Yeah, they're listening.
Yeah.
I mean, I got one that's 18 and 16, and like I've tried to not force them. I think there's maybe your perspective that you, as a kid growing up, how you were a hard worker since you were 12. I've similar. I was hanging drywall with my dad when I was 12 years old.
Right.
Working side jobs with him, and I think we want those for our kids, but I think it's hard to try to push them into that. I think you got to let them have room to be kids.
Yeah.
And they are learning things, whether or not we know it or not. I mean, and I think as your kids develop, get older, then they'll start revealing to you little things that, just like that, the jiu-jitsu, you didn't know they were learning, but they were.
Yeah.
And you'll see those little evidences pop up and be like, oh, okay, the kid was listening. And then just let them find their own time for when they're motivation or when they're motivated. Like my boys are now just starting to get into PDR.
That's cool.
Right? Like I've been trying to push them. I got pictures of me having Deacon push Dents when he was probably 8 in the driveway. I got him working doing R&I for me in Montana in 2017 when he was like 11. He didn't care about it. It was just a hobby or it was just an event at the time. Like, I'll just go do this for my dad for a little bit. But there was no interest in like doing this. There was no focus. And they were a little distracted. But now he's seeing like, now he does want some money to be able to do things, a car, or now he wants a cold air intake for his truck and all these things. And it's like, how do I make money? What's the fastest way to make money? Oh, I know Dad can make money pretty fast. I can go work for Dad and make money pretty fast. And now he's doing a hill car in my shop.
That's awesome.
Right? And so like, without, if we force them to do those things, you're probably going to get a certain reaction.
Yeah.
As opposed to creating an environment. And I'll use my flower analogy. Like if you try opening up a flower, it's probably not going to go good.
Yeah.
But if you create the environment and you water it and you nurture it and give it sunlight and get the conditions and just let it be, at some point it'll open.
Right. They subconsciously absorb so much anyway.
They are.
And I introduced books to them reading when I did my first 75 hard, and my son helped me do my workouts, and he kept me on my shit with taking my photo. And my 10 pages, I would just read to them at night because I was falling asleep. And if I fell asleep 2 pages in, your bitch voice will eat at you and be like, you didn't read 10 pages. You might have read a couple, but you didn't read 10, And I started reading to them to keep me awake. And I was reading a book. I don't know if it was the Napoleon Hill book, The Laws of Success. Between that one or the How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of them talk about the sixth sense. I can't remember which one it was at this point, but the sixth sense is like intuition, kind of like the what do they call that? Where you can't see the energy in the air, but it's there, and you can kind of you can absorb some of it. And I taught my kids that, and just through the book, nothing crazy, but my daughters now will reference stuff like that, like the ether. And I'm like, whoa, what do you know about the ether? And they're like, oh, well, the vibrations. And like, they'll talk about it just because I read it to them. And they'll come up to me and just want to have a conversation with me. And they'll talk about things that they know that I'm interested in. And that makes me real happy with my girls being able to absorb. My son, yeah, but he don't talk to me as much. But my girls on the other side of the spectrum, they are attached to me and they want to spend time with me and they want me to notice them. My 6-year-old, she turned 6 she taught herself how to ride a bike in my parking lot at my shop. And I wasn't even really paying attention. I took the training wheels off, and then she didn't really try. But then one day I'm out there working, and she's riding in circles, yelling my name. And I look, and she's like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I've fallen, and I keep getting up. I'm like, dang, that's awesome. And like, just she wanted to show me that she's not quitting. And she is now like always about that. She doesn't like to quit. I got never quit tatted on my chest. Not because I never quit, but because I want to quit. You know what I mean? And it's like, I can't. I'm not allowed. But every once in a while, you know, we fall and it takes us a little longer to get back up. But they see me not quitting. But again, I don't feel like they see the success that I want them to see. And I'm impatient, aggressively impatient. I'm trying to figure out how to balance it all out. So, yeah, with the whole kid thing, man, I'm still like behind a wall trying to get out. But
So one more thing, just about the father-son relationship mainly, but I mean, I guess this applies to fathers and daughters also. But this is another thing I was talking to my wife about, trying to figure out, like, okay, in its simplest form, what makes a good relationship between a father and their kid. I haven't fully developed this, but this is what I come up with is, does my kid feel like I enjoy them? Right? Like when my kid comes up to me, am I happy to see them, and do I enjoy myself with that child, right? Or when they see me, is it rules, disappointment, demands, right? Or do they feel like when I walk up to my dad, he's just going to light up and he's going to be so happy, right? And I was thinking that's pretty much true. Like even as an adult, how would I wish my relationship with my dad to be? I would think I would want him to enjoy my presence and want to be with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of all you want is like, and then if that's not there, like if you feel like my father doesn't care about spending time with me, and when I'm around him, he doesn't enjoy me. And then it's like, that's the death of, that's just the spiral downwards.
yeah, growing up, I didn't have my real dad. I had my stepdad, and he had his own 2 kids. And I didn't have my dad. My brother had a different dad. My other brother had a different dad. So like, I was just trying to make a dad out of what I had there. But it was never the same. But I didn't meet my dad because of my stepdad. And he found him and introduced me to him when I was like 14.
Your stepdad found
my real dad, and my real dad's just a swamp logger. Lived in the woods his whole life. Got hooked on crack. He was a functional addict. Lived with his mom still, till this day. But my stepdad was a real man, and he took care of his shit. And when he knew that me and him were having problems, and like I was kind of being rebellious, I was doing bad shit, and he sat me down and he was like, what do you want? What do you need? And I was like, I don't know what I want. But I've always held on to this thing that my dad left when he moved when I was like 2, 3 years old. It was like a Nelson's fishing camp sign, and I always had it. And like, he's like, I can find your dad. He's like, I know his route. I know where he is. And I was like, okay, I would love to meet him. Well, he stuck to it, and he drove me and my mom to an Augustine gas station where all the loggers would go before they rut out. They'd fuel up there. And we pulled in, and we watched the crews come in. And all the guys get out the trucks and do their thing. And my mom says, there he is. And I haven't seen this man since I was like 2. And I'm like,
How old were you?
I was probably 14. It could have been
Dude.
15. And he's like, you going to get out? And I was like, yeah. And I
What
get
are
out.
what are you feeling
I'm
inside?
feeling confused on like,
my
is this the right
gosh.
idea? Is this the right move? Like,
No
my
way.
stepdad, is he looking back on it in hindsight, is my stepdad doing this because he wants to show me that my dad's a piece of shit and I need to treat him like my dad? Like, I don't know where it was coming from, but he decided he wanted to do it. And I tried to run with it. I tried to build a relationship with this guy.
Yeah.
I shook his hand, and my stepdad goes, there he is. Here's the piece of shit right in front of him.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and I walked up,
gosh.
and I shook his hand, and he looked at me, and I shook his hand, and his hand felt weird, like cold. And one of his hands was just completely blue, and like all the way up his arm. And I noticed that, and I was like, what the fuck? And my mom told me it's because he used to shoot up like acids and shit or chemicals for high or whatever. But my stepdad said, "There's a piece of shit." And I shook his hand, and he shook my hand. He looked me in the eye, and he said, "What's your name?" I told him my name, and he like kind of took back. He thought my mom was a different ex-wife. He didn't even realize my mom was my mom. He was like caught way off guard. So he just kind of like turned around and walked behind the gas station. And my stepdad was like, "All right, well, that was it. You ready?" And I got in the car, and I didn't even know what to do. But my mom ended up giving her number to one of the guys, like the drivers of the crew or whatever. When he came back, he gave it to her. He called, asked for me, and I ended up going to his house and meeting my family, like my dad's side of the family.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were all crackheads other than the girls in the family kind of took care of the brothers, and they're all junkies. And like I'm there, I'm meeting them. I stayed the night there one night because we were going to go fishing. You know, I was trying to build a relationship with my dad for the first time. And I'm out on the back porch. I used to smoke cigarettes when I was a little kid. And like it was like 1 a.m. and I'm like out on the back porch smoking a cigarette. And one of my uncles that I just met comes walking out. And I'm like, oh, trying to hide the cigarette. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about that, man." He sits down, he's talking to me, and he's doing something. And he's making a can, and he's crushing it down, and he's poking holes in it. And I'm sitting there like wondering what he's doing. I've done that for weed, you know what I mean? Back in the day when I was a little jit. And I'm watching this 40, 50-year-old man do this. And I'm like, what is he about to do? And he scoops some ashes out the ashtray, and he sprinkles it on the can. And he takes a little rock out of his fucking bag and drops it on there and just starts smoking crack right in front of me. I was like, whoa. Like, my mom told me that this is what they were. This is why he's not a part of my life. Because if he couldn't have the family, he didn't want none of it. So when she separated from him because of his problems, he literally just disappeared. Dropped off the face of the earth, like never seen him again. But all his brothers were the same way. They all were swamp loggers, and they all smoked crack. And like I got to see it with my own eyes, you know. But then that made me have a way better relationship with my dad, like my
stepdad.
My stepdad. Started calling him
Was your
dad.
real?
Yeah, I got a tattoo on my back.
You started calling him that.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah, like I realized, like,
wow,
he was like my dad, you know. And I have a tattoo on my back that says, "Any man can be a father. It takes a real man to be a dad." That was my first tattoo, and I got that for him, and he was mad as shit, but he came around. I was only 14 when I got it tattooed, you know. And but no, now I don't have him. I got a whole different perspective. Like, my shop is only a 5-minute walk from where he used to live, and he never even got to see it, you know. Sucks.
Yeah.
But the other guy's still alive. He's living with his mom. I could go there right now if I wanted to and see him. Don't have any want to.
Well,
how did your stepdad die?
Well, when I was in Georgia building my business, he got diagnosed with a tumor in his brainstem and his spine, like entangled.
Oh my gosh.
And that really messed me up. And I was into like a real big health kick. I was listening to the China study. I was listening to all these books that have all these different perspectives of how we need to nurture our bodies and minds. And I was like, you need to go through a detox. You need to eliminate meat from your diet. You need to do all these things. And I got him listening to me because he got scared, you know, and I was scared for him. And he started juicing carrots, and it turned him orange, bro. Like the carotene and the carrots literally.
I had an uncle that did that.
Yeah, but it stopped the growth. It
Really?
did. The doctor said, whatever you're doing, you have stopped the growth. And he said, okay, great. Now what can we do to eliminate it altogether? And he's like, all right, well, if we cut it out, you might be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And, you know, if you want to take that risk, because it's not growing, so the risks are the same, essentially, you know, so he had a lot to think about. But his blood pressure was out of control. A bunch of other things were happening, and he was still trying to manage. So he wanted it cut out. So he got it cut out, and he recovered. And within a couple of days, he was walking. And
No
the doctors
way.
were like, "Oh man, all right." He was doing his therapy, and me and him had a good relationship because a lot of the stuff he was doing, I kind of introduced him to and trying to get him to be living. He was a cigarette smoker, Red Bull drinker, Twinkie eater, bro. He was not a healthy guy. But he started being healthy, you know, and taking an interest in what I was doing with my health journey and training jiu-jitsu. He'd go to my fights, you know. I got a fight, I'll go back and watch my fight just because I can hear him yelling in the background. Like, yeah, it's one of those
Wow.
touching moments where every time I get a little sad, I'll go, you know, watch that fight and listen to him yell for me to win, you know. But yeah, he died on his boat with a line in the water fishing with his new wife. And I was at the skating rink with my kids, and I got the phone call to come to the hospital. And I went, not sure why. I just had to with him. And as soon as I walk in, I see my stepsister, and my brother, and everybody's sad. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And they walked me in, and there he was. You know, no longer there. So they said that he just stopped breathing on the boat. You know, but I had to park they pulled his boat out the water, the people that helped him, and I had to park his boat back at his house, and he had a pack of cigarettes and a Red Bull in the fucking console. You know, like he just decided that he was going to live his life how he wanted. Yeah. And it was that day that took him out. But I know dying out there is how he would have wanted to go anyway, you know? So,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's crazy because one of the guys, the Muay Thai coaches that I've trained with a few times over the years, was the first responder on the scene. He was a cop, and he reached out to me and was like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I was the first responder to your dad's death, and if I can ever do anything for you. And the MMA community kind of came through, and I immediately set up a fight, like immediately, and started training really hard, and I fought one of the toughest dudes, and I won. So I did all that for him. I got a bunch of sponsors. I got a T-shirt with his face on it, cartoon, and like with an octopus around it because he had a big octopus tattoo on his arm, and fucking killed it, dude. Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments because, you know, triumph. You know,
Wow.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah,
Cool story.
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm trying not to like
No, it's all.
No,
be a baby.
no, it's good. You won't be the first person to
Yeah.
shed tears on this.
Yeah, I'm not used to talking about so much things back to back, you know, like there's so much things that went into all these different factors, you know, and I already messed up explaining like my business started in 2017, but in Florida it started in 2019 because in 2017 it started in Georgia, and that was a whole different experience, a whole different list of problems, you know. And
So walk us through starting your business here and getting to where you're at. So how did you had your trailer already?
Yeah, I started everything back up because the Mullinax dealership, like I told them that I was literally sitting in the bullpen filling out my LLC paperwork on their computer, like ready to go. I got my Vistaprint cards done. I got all that stuff done. And then I told the manager, I think this is it for me, guys. Like I'm going to go back to what I used to do. And, you know, I'd love to come here and service y'all's wheels. And the manager that had just started and took the place of another friend of mine was really upset because he wanted... because I was doing pretty good, you know, and every manager has their salesmen that they like, and then they'll help feed deals too when they get friends that want to buy vehicles. So, like, they all kind of have their clique, and he was trying to put me into his. And I went to him and told him that I was going to be leaving. And I was like, I'm going to give you guys a 2-week notice today, and I want to start my business back up. And he was like, taken back, man, was not happy. And I was like, well, I'm going to be coming in, and I'll be here every week, and, you know, I want to do y'all's wheels. He's like, what makes you think we're going to want you here doing our wheels? And I was so caught off guard by that, dude. And I was like, all right, well, shit. So what, you don't need a 2 weeks? He's like, no, you're not going to take opportunity away from other salesmen. You can just go ahead and leave. So that was a bad like idea in my brain of how I'm going to start this. So that was going to be my first store back. You know what I mean? Like I was hoping to have a better go at it. But
Yeah.
I guess this relationship isn't what I thought it was.
yeah, well, he was upset, and you know, I went back in there and talked to him, and we rekindled our relationship, and everything worked. Because I'm not gonna let something like that. I know he was reacting. You know, he wasn't responding with the right way. Because I'm valuable to him because I can do wheels better than anybody else, and I know that, and I stand on that. And I can do wheels as good or better than the next guy, and I've been doing it so long now that. Up to that point, I was super confident because I've been watching the wheel guys do their work, and they suck on that lot. They weren't doing a good job compared to what I could bring. So I was very confident that I can go and pick up any store, and I started to do so. And I picked up stores real quick, and I didn't have a shop, obviously. I was just picking up stores, going to customers' houses, and I developed a way to where I wouldn't have customers breathing down my neck. I started bringing an umbrella and an extra chair, and every time I pull up to a customer's house, I developed a process from the book The E-Myth from Michael Gerber. Everything's process-oriented. So I would show up to the customer's house, I'd run through the system, I'd whip out a chair, put the umbrella up, unravel my awning, set myself up, and say, oh, well, this is for you. And they'd be like, oh, well, okay, yeah. And they'd sit down, and you can tell the customers that are mowing their grass or weed eating or washing their windows or watching you the whole time. They try to find something to do while you're there working on their car because they just have like either they're interested or they're nervous or whatever the case may be, they're particular. So I just started treating everybody like they were particular. So I would give them their own spot to hang out with me while I did their work with the expectations that in the next 20 minutes, they're going to realize that they're in good hands and they're going to go handle business that they need to handle and not worry about what I'm doing. And it worked. Like it all started clicking and I started getting more retail work than dealership work. And I started being stretched on like I'm making more money retail, but I want to do my relationships with my dealerships. And then I walked into Daytona Toyota.
How were you getting the retail work?
Word of mouth. Yeah, I wasn't
No advertising.
No advertising. Word of mouth. And I walked into Daytona Toyota and they were attached to their body shop. I went to the used car manager. He kind of brushed me away. I laughed, gave him a card. And as I'm walking out, I see body shop sign. And I was like, I wonder who does their wheels. So I walked in. And I walked in actually to the guy that's responsible to hire. And I didn't know who. It's just the first office that was open. And I was like, hey, man, just wanted to introduce myself and see if I can ever do anything for you. And left him my card. He goes, oh, go see Glenn. I was like, oh, sweet. I'll go find Glenn. And I walked and I found Glenn. Glenn, I still have contact with till this day. He's a Southern dude, used to do cockfighting, super funny guy. He actually has been to my fights and everything. Like, we have a good relationship, but he retired and moved to Mexico with his wife. But I met him, and he was like, just in time. My wheel guy just said no. Come on, follow me. And I was like, sweet. He's like, what do you charge? I said, $50 a wheel. And he looked at me like I was retarded. And he's like, I'll let you rethink that. And we keep walking. And I was like, all right, whatever that means, because I don't know the difference between wholesale and then collision center insurance work. Didn't understand the differences. I'm thinking I'm going to get a bunch of work and I need to keep my prices cheap. So then he doesn't tell me a number, but he tells me I do my demo. I was not set up in a good way. I was doing it. I was able to do good work, but my setup still wasn't where I wanted it. But he was happy with the work I did. And he says, all right, I'm going to go introduce you to Steve. I was like, oh, great. Go from this guy to this guy to this guy. This is good progress. A good job on the demo. I did it for free. And as we're walking to meet Steve, he asks me, how much are you charging? He's like, not $50. Get your price up. And I was like, $80 a wheel? And he's like, all right. And we walk into the same office that I started at. And I said, oh, this is Steve. And he goes, how did he do, Glenn? He's like, he's great. Let's use him. And I was like, oh, fantastic. He's like, what do you charge? And I looked at Glenn, and Glenn looked at me. And I was like, $80? And he's like, that's it? He's like, okay. He told me I need to give him 2 invoices, one for one cost, and then I need to discount it to the amount that it'll make $80 for my cost. So he has 2 invoices, and I had no idea why. I said, okay, I don't even know how to do that. But I didn't tell him that. I said, I'll figure that out for sure. Yeah, let's do it. So that was like my first real insurance introduction, and I guess it went good. I just undersold myself.
Yeah.
You know? But I got it up, figured it all out, and from there on, I started trying to land all the other ones, the John Hall, the Joe Hudsons, the Classics. And then Glenn moved to Classic, brought me, called the manager at Bodyworks, got me in there. They called the manager at Joe Hudson and solidified my spot there. And then I had a route of collision centers, and I was making $125 a wheel. And that's what really made it for us. And then from there, I stopped going mobile. I ended up getting a shop, little-ass shop, started building it, hired a helper. And I bought a van from one of our dealerships, and started doing pickups and bringing them all to where I'm at one of the places so I can do multiple wheels from different stores at the same time. But the problem with that was I was leaving them on jack stands and making the car kind of sitting on a jack stand. Certain managers didn't like it. So I ended up figuring out a way to get spares, and I was collecting a bunch of donuts. And at Classic, where Glenn was, they had this giant rack with donuts from totaled cars that they just collect, and he told me I have access to all of them. So I would go there and take a bunch, and I would go pick up a bunch of wheels. And I got it to where I could get enough wheels to work my ass to night and make decent money into where I can invest it into hiring somebody to help me do it. So I did that, and then with that came new, understandings and new failures and new triumphs, like getting dealerships and losing them with somebody else doing the work. That was very difficult for me. But I found these thing called gunny wheels. They're universal patterns, and they're coming 3 different 4, 5, 6s, and 8s. And I bought a couple of them. And instead of leaving the cars on jack stands, we put them on there, and we can take them off anywhere, and the car will keep moving through production. So the collision centers like that. So then from there to now, that's my main thing for the collision centers. I got about 30 of those wheels, and I got a van that picks up 15 to 20 wheels at a time, and I got a driver that's driving to all of our stores. I call him my collision center coordinator. I gave him a nice, cool title. You know, he's making okay money. I definitely want him to make more, but he has all the responsibility of logistics, coordinating, and relationships with all of those managers in a group chat, and I'm in all of them. And so now I have a wholesale side and I have a retail side. So then my office manager, she handles all of our retails, walk-ins, scheduling. Mobile Tech is great for that because wholesale, retail, we can split them all up and kind of pay attention to who we're doing. So I have one person in charge of that side, one person in charge of that side, and I oversee it. And then we have 2 other techs, my wife and James, and we all operate together. It's not piecework. They get paid by the hour, and I'm giving some of them commission based off skills and after-hour work. And it's all still developing, but it's so different from how it started, like so different.
Sounds like it.
So different.
Wow.
And that's why it's still so new to me. Like no matter what, I'm changing things for the better, but I'm introduced to new things that are like, I did not know that. Like I got sent. No, I didn't get sent. I got offered an opportunity by a paint rep. I met a supplier that was selling me my clear coats and my paints. And I told him, man, I would love a mixing bank one day. I would love to have one. I don't have one. I'm just buying toners, mixing them up the way I know. And he's like, if I ever come across one, I'll hit you up. Because sometimes we pull them out of shops and move them around if shops close down or buy new ones. Literally a week later, he calls me and says he's got one. And I was like, well, how much? He's like, bro, I'm going to bring it to you. All you got to do is just keep buying your product from me. So I built it into a room, and I got it all, and I filled up all the toners, and he didn't charge me anything other than paint. And I started learning how to mix up codes, and now I can mix up codes for any vehicle. And I'm learning how to do, touch-ups and enhancements on people's cars and all these things we're adding to the services. But just being introduced new ways to do things, it's like I'm continuously learning that I don't really know as much as I want to. So I told them that, and they sent me out to a training course in Georgia.
Who did?
The guy, the rep.
The paint rep.
Yeah, I guess they get a couple of them a month or a year, whatever the case may be, and they sent me out. And they said they had a hotel room for me, and I was going to go through a 2-day class. And I learned a lot in that class about how the different speeds react, different than I already thought what I knew. You know what I mean? And just how paint sprays out your cheat valve compared to how it sprays directly out the filter. If you don't use your cheat valve and you have your pressure set right, you won't have bursts of air when you're first starting. Like all these the details in the game, right? You can be a white belt and know 100 moves. You can be a black belt and do 5 moves super efficiently, and you're like, oh, I don't know as many moves as the white belt, but I guarantee you I know every single detail of this move, and he will never even be able to comprehend the structure of this move that I've developed. And that's like how jiu-jitsu plays out in business, like you think you know it until you level up, and then you look at it and you're like, oh shit, how come I've never seen this? And then that was a whole new paradigm of like how to really break it down. So learning how to apply paint right was huge, like mind twist, because I've been spraying paint, but not right. And now I understand it so much better, and everything's going good. I hired a painter. He's painting. I set up my old trailer as a booth with my new booth right next to each other. So now we can spray 8, 9, 10, 12 wheels at once. I'm buying another booth, and we're starting powder coating this year. So now we're going to be doing 2 different ways because it's in demand. I just checked on this morning. I got 528 5-star Google reviews as of today, with just extremely happy, satisfied clients because I've built a system to make them important and a process that my office manager runs everybody through. And it's still being refined. We still obviously make mistakes, but no mistake goes unnoticed. Like we address them and we solve problems. I feel like we're a problem-solving company. So we can't solve all your problems, but if you guys got a giant-ass dent, I'm sending you to Bryce Kelly. Bryce Kelly sends me wheels all the time, and it makes me feel honored that a prestigious dude in my area recommends his customers to me, and I take that very seriously. And like I mentioned, that book, The E-Myth from Michael Gerber, he breaks down his experience through a a barbershop that he went to and how his first experience was amazing. And he told all his friends about how great the process was at this barbershop. And then he went again, ready to, wanted to go experience that again, get his trim, whatever. And then it was slightly different. And then he went again, and it was slightly different again from being slightly different. It just never was repetitive or consistent with the what his expectations were after the first time. And that's what I started figuring out was important, was McDonald's University, right? Station, delivery product, you're done. Like everybody kind of experiences it. And the other day I had kind of one of those confirmations that that's working because I had a customer recommended from his neighbor. And that customer got a whole premium upgrade package. He got his calipers done, his wheels completely done, new tires put on, everything was sharp. So he was like, all right, I just have one.
You do tires too?
Yeah, we do tires as well.
Wow.
Yeah, we order tires and install them. We try to get people to bring tires or let us order tires if they need them before we do the paint process because it just makes less risk of, problems. He had his own expectations based off what his neighbor told him. And when he picked up, one of the first things he said, because he only came for one wheel. His neighbor had all four done, but he came for one repair. But when he picked up from the road, he saw his wheels were shining, like his tire shine on them. We kind of do the aesthetics where they can see it when they walk up. Shine the tire. We have a 4-step process. We clean, we shine, we protect, and we dress. And that's a system that I developed. And we do that for every single client, and every client gets 2 free cleanings with that method a year once they become a client with us, and they have lifetime warranty on their clear coat, and they get free chips, touch-ups. If tires chop, something jumps up and bites you, wheels are your first line of defense is what I tell them. But this guy goes, man, you only worked on this wheel, right? He was like kind of nervous. And I was like, oh yeah, we just clean and polish all of them. It's just part of it. And he goes, you know what? My neighbor did tell me you do that. And that was like that's what I need to make sure is being told. When we do something for the neighbor, and then the neighbor comes, the guy he told, and we do the same style, like holy shit, everybody's getting a holy shit and everyone's talking about it. And that's kind of like showed its face to me now, where the word of mouth thing, where people are looking us up on Google, that was messing me up for a while because we had too many reviews. I wasn't buying them. They're from 2017. It's just from 2017 to now. Now we have 528.
What do you mean you had too many?
They would get there and be like, how do you have so many reviews? And like
they didn't believe it almost.
My setup didn't reflect like the compliments and the what I was getting online until they experienced our service. They were judging us from the initial appearance.
The appearance of your business.
And my shop wasn't nice. It was hard to find. It was all these factors that like I always try to change. Like I wanted to.
It wasn't a whole completely consistent experience.
Yeah, and it was everything's random. Like I'm trying to figure out processes as I'm going. But now every single service we do has a process that I'm still developing. Thank God for ChatGPT. I built a whole handbook off of ChatGPT. It took me 2 days of each service, but now I got to revise it because now we added 4 or 5 other new services that we do that's not even in the handbook. But it's constant progress.
We go to a barber, and
I need to go to the bathroom. Anybody need to take a break?
number 1 or number 2?
Number 1.
Y'all are awesome.
We go to a barber, and me and both my boys all go to the same chick. And sometimes you go there. I mean, we get the same haircut. We go there once a month or twice a month. You ever get a haircut. And sometimes you get a straight razor on the neck, which I love. Sometimes you don't. And you never know when you're going to get the straight razor on the neck. I love the straight razor on the neck and the splash of aftershave.
Right.
But, sometimes we'll leave and I'll get the straight razor, but Deacon won't. He'll be like, what the heck? How come you got the straight razor? I don't know. I don't know what her variable is that gives it this, to you or to me or not you or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe she's rushed. I don't know. But it's like that little thing you're talking about is he's going there for the haircut.
Yeah.
Because he needs a haircut, but he wants the straight razor on the neck, right?
He wants the experience that he likes.
Yeah, and let me just say, we go to a barber where you get an experience.
Okay.
They give you, the hot towel, not a shave, but like the hot towel while you wash the head, and they give you a little shoulder massage and all that while they're doing it. And
Fancy.
So like you go there to get pampered.
Yeah.
That's the man's way of getting pampered, let's just say, for me at least. But you you need the haircut, but I want the straight razor.
Right.
And when you don't get it, it's like, oh man. But it's just not having that process. Like, had they have this process in place to where every time I'm getting that straight razor, it would just be that little bit more.
Right. The satisfaction every time you know you get it when you leave. You don't have to ask for it. Like he was talking about, they served them a coffee the first time. They did all these things. And I'm like, man.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. It's like you want to almost say, are we going to do a straight razor this time?
Yeah. You can't even ask about it.
You know what I did? I brought my own bottle of aftershave and I left it there because my neck will break out if I don't get aftershave. Like I have to have aftershave. If a razor touches me, or you can use straight alcohol. I don't care. Just treat that thing. And so, sometimes they'd have aftershave, sometimes they wouldn't. So I'm like, I brought up my own bottle and left it there. And this is mine. Keep it in your drawer.
That is funny.
So
Now they know to use it on you.
Yeah, just to keep the process going, because just little holes in their process that, we could totally try to implement in our business to try to make sure that you're delivering a consistent process to hold them. So it's the return customer. I don't know how many return customers you're getting, yet.
I'm starting to get
You're starting to get them.
Yes.
Those are so important. So important.
But I think the goal is to be consistent. They don't have to give me the straight razor, but the fact that you did once and you didn't the next time, that's like, well, why not? What? So it's like, if you're going to give a straight razor, give it every time.
Right. I'm trying to get my guys to do certain things every time, and as part of this whole buildup that we're doing, and they still miss things, but we talk about it, and we're trying to be like, look, you can't forget to clean. No customer gets a dirty wheel, even if we just inspected it. How did you inspect it if it's dirty?
Or if you're not going to give it every time, make it known that the one time you did it, it was like a special freebie, right?
Don't tell anyone I did this for you.
Yeah. Exactly. Like one time they were like occasionally she'll do the ear wax, right, or the nose wax, and that's not every time, but occasionally they throw it in and they make you let you know, like, hey, but the expectation isn't that every time. It's that they said it that it's just occasional, like we'll throw you this little thing for free, and that's fine. But if you're expecting it every time as the conditions of the experience,
you set the expectations for what they are, and you want to repeat, but then you exceed expectations by 15% or more. So there's always going to be extra, but there's never going to be less, and that's the way to run it. That's my belief.
And I think that goes into like don't discount, but give it for free if you want to give it for free, but don't discount. We deal with a lot of that on pricing with one of my vendors. It's like if you give them a discount, then they kind of always expect that discount.
Hell yeah, you condition it.
But if you give them for free, then that's just, I'm feeling generous today.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm going to give it to you today. But if I have this discount, then they're like, why don't I get this today? I always get this. Well, this was the number last time we did this service. How come this has changed? But if we went ahead and threw that wheel in for free today. We had an extra guy standing around, nothing to do, or we had extra material. We went ahead and threw it in. Then that's like above and beyond.
Yes.
That's not expectation.
Right. I like that. You actually inspired me to do something. I was listening to you talk about that dent that threw you for a hole. You wanted to fix it. You just had to get your hands on it. And that happens to me a lot with wheels. When I'm going to the gym, I cannot help it. I look at wheels. My daughters look at wheels. Everyone looks in my family at wheels, bro. We walk by, oh, look, curb rash. We have sticky notes we'll slap on the window, give us a call if you want to fix your curb rash. But now, because of what you said, how you saw that and you just wanted to give her a better experience with the industry in total. It wasn't for you specifically. It was for our industry. And that's where I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be a known leader in my industry. I'm far from it. If you're hearing this, don't be judging. I'm far from it, but I'm working on being there. That right there, I'm going to be looking for a wheel that I can tell has been worked on. And if I can tell from more than 3 feet away that it's been worked on, I'm gonna leave a note, and I'm gonna try to get that person to allow me to fix it for free and show them the difference between someone that was probably quick solution that they paid and realized that, oh man, wheel repair guys are shoddy. I want them to get a different outlook on wheel repair and know that they have better options and not just picking the first one they see. And I see a lot of bad repairs, just like y'all see a lot of bad repairs on panels. Like I get a lot of cars in with, I can tell it's been worked on PDR, paint, and I got to explain. Before I take a car into my shop, we walk around the car because I don't want anything to be blamed on me because, they had a chip in their bumper and we didn't notice it before we took it in. Now they're picking up and now their car looks a little cleaner and they notice it and say, oh, that wasn't there before. No, it was. We make sure that we document everything. But finding a wheel that it's just got a bad job on it, I'm going to be on the hunt now. Yeah. And I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah. I'm excited about it. Yeah, actually, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do that. Do it for free, make a video about it. It's going to be good.
So you said, you mentioned Mobile Tech RX, one of our sponsors.
Yeah.
You said you have a different process with them for wholesale and retail. Like what is?
Yeah, I split everything up. I used to pay my guy a commission on just what he was picking up from collision centers. So all of our wholesale dealerships, collision centers are all wholesale, and then anybody walks through the front door scheduled is retail. It's not necessarily a different process, I guess. It's
you
just,
have them classified that way in the software?
Yeah, and it breaks it down for you for the most part. Makes everything easier for me to keep track of, but I'm still learning it because I don't sell products, but now I am. And cost of goods sold, being attached, all that stuff is still I didn't go to business school. I never learned anything the right way. I've learned everything ass backwards, hard inside out, not good, but good enough to where I didn't give up and kept wanting to learn. Mobile, I used to use a legal pad and written carbon copy stuff when I first started, and then a Dent guy in Georgia told me to try Invoice to Go. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, bro, if you get an iPad and you walk in there with pictures on your iPad and you invoice there, they're going to like you more. And I was like, oh, man, that's a good idea. So I did that. And, that was cool for a while. But then I found Mobile Tech. I don't remember how. I think someone might have mentioned it. And I looked it up and I was paying for the bare minimum. But now I pay for the whole shebang, $200 or so a month. And I'm still trying to figure out what I have access to and how to break things down. I'm trying to figure, because in wheels, it doesn't give you the idea, the option to separate what service you're doing to the wheels. So I can pull up a report and detail, PDR, paint, R&I, whatever, all that stuff laid out. And I can pull, if I did all that, I would be having individual reports, but I just do wheels for the most part. So wheels and detailing. So my report doesn't go bend wheels, cracked wheels, corrosion removal wheels, correction wheels, ceramic coated wheel, all that stuff.
You can't do that on the admin side?
You can look at them all, but you can't pull a report with all of those broken up down because wheels is just wheels on the report.
Yeah. On a report.
And that's something that I'm trying to track now to see what we're getting most service, so I can throw a little video out and pay for it. And a corrosion removal, people don't even realize, because when I was a wheel guy and someone would bring me a wheel that was just pissing air out of every single spot on the bead, and you're like, I have no idea. Well, there's two reasons now I know. It's either built up corrosion sitting inside the clear coat on the bead that's just allowing air to seep under it and out the holes, and it's coming out of everywhere. You can't pinpoint it. And then chrome does the same thing, but it's plated. So it's going to come out through the plate underneath and out the face, and it's going to be leaking everywhere. It won't allow air to sit. So I have to take a grinding wheel and I have to shave the whole outer edge of both beads on the wheel, seal them with a primer, and then bead seal it and put the tire back on. But in the past, I didn't even know what the hell to tell them. Oh, your wheel's compromised. Throw it in the trash. I didn't know. But I've learned that, and that's a big service. That's a big service for us. We used to charge $40. That was way too cheap because it takes to grind chrome. I don't know if y'all ever had to do it.
No.
Grind chrome down, it is a process, man. It takes so long. And you got to use aggressive cutoff wheels or grinding wheels to get into the chrome to where you're exposing the alloy. And then if you don't seal it, it's going to happen again. So you got to seal it, and it takes time. You got to take the tire off, put a tire back on it, then inspect it. By the time you're done with it, it's a 3-4 hour job.
And a lot of product. That
yeah, and we were charging so cheap. But now, we charge $80 a wheel, and we give ourselves. I don't tell anybody, oh, this will just be a couple hours. Everything's end of day the next day. And when customers complain, I say, well, we look at our service as the value after you leave. We're making sure we're checking all of our boxes, and you're not going to have to worry about it because you're leaving with a warranty. So in order for me to give you the product that I want to give you, you need to give me the time that I need. And once you give me that time, we're friends now. You're stuck. I tell them all, you're stuck with me now. Like, I'm going to bother you. I'm going to call. I want to touch your wheels. I want to touch them 2
You
times a year.
want to put your name on that job.
Yeah.
It's not like you just want, I did this, now go away. And if anything ever happens, don't blame it on me.
Yeah, we got a callback system. I got notes in Mobile Tech on customers, like, are they sport fans? Do they like MMA? Like, things that we can, when we call them, we'll look at our notes. We're still developing a system right now. I have a new office person from the last time I developed a system like this. But we were doing month-to-month callbacks from the month before on services and just checking on their services. And they were like so happy we called. Oh,
Wow.
we don't even have that car anymore, but thanks to you guys for calling and checking. Oh man, repair is great, driving like a dream. Or, I'm still feeling a vibration, but I didn't want to call you guys. Well, bro, please bring it in. Let me check all your other wheels. Let me rebalance your wheels for free. I need to make sure that you're driving as good as we can get you. Because I don't want you leaving here and being like, well, I'm glad they tried, but I don't think it worked. No, let me make sure. If it didn't work, I would have told you from the get-go that it wasn't going to work. Something else needs to be addressed, right? Like, a lot of times a bent rim, you drive on a bent rim for a while and you can kind of deal with it until you have the time to address it. A little bit of vibration in your ass or your steering wheel or whatever. But you're wearing that tire out. And now that tire is shaping to the bend, right? And so when they straighten that wheel, I always ask them, how long do you think you drove on this tire before you addressed it? A week, a month, a year, 4 years, all different times. The alloy is stuck after a certain amount of time, and it's rested in the position of the bend. If you just bent it and you bring it to me, when I push that shit, it's like, boop, goes right back to where it wants to go. I'm sure y'all's panels can have the similar effect, right? Some things move just like back into place. You're like, oh, beautiful. Some wheels do that. Some wheels don't. If it was ridden on and bent for a long time, think about heat cycles. The wheel's hot, cold, right? It's like over time that now is kind of stuck, and I'll push it and it'll go back.
Come back.
So I have to like spend more time on those. So I always ask, how long do you think? Because that affects my time frame. I don't want to crack your wheel. That's the last thing I want to do. But every wheel has got a 50% chance of cracking. You're giving me permission to work on this. This isn't an OEM recommended repair. This is an alternative repair, right? And we're giving you the best warranty and also the best information we can give you to where you're safely riding on a wheel. And I got to make sure it's safe too. I want to put my hand on it 2 times a year now. I want to make sure that it's balancing good and nothing weird's going on. So if you leave and you feel like you got a problem, I need you to call me. I don't want you to be afraid to call me. You're not bothering me. Like, I'll be calling you within a few months anyway. So we'll get ahead of it. But still, it's like, that's what I try to get every client to understand. It's like, we are here for you. You're a customer until you do your first wheel. Now you're a client. And that's what I'm trying to get my people to understand. It's like, we're here to take care of them and solve their problem. We're not here to, how much money did we make today? That's never a question at our shop. No one ever walks in and goes, hey, how much money did we make today, Garrett? Like, shut up. That would never be asked. I would tell you to go away. Like, how many customers did we help today? That's a good question.
So would you be willing to walk us through your process that you bring a customer through?
Yeah. It's obviously you got a phone call. They're not here and they want you to look at stuff that's not in your site. I request videos with explanation, pictures. Gina she's new.
Do you have a script that you reply to people with?
Yeah, it's not really set in stone, but it's based off of the service. We try to get pictures and expectations and like experience. Like, when was the last time you had your wheels worked on? When was the last time like you had your brakes done? Because so many factors. You're feeling vibrations. You want to get us to just check your rims. The best thing that we can do is give you an idea until we see them in our shop and you come by for an inspection. So a lot of people want the answer on the phone because they're shopping. So like, I'll give them a rough roundabout and just tell them, do what you're doing. And if you really want like a legit inspection, it's free, but you have to have an appointment. So everything's on an appointment. When we get walk-ins, we will take them sometimes, but we kind of push them to schedule an appointment because we're already busy with the jobs that we get. And we're pacing about 2,200 a day for the last 11 days right now. And that's a team of 5. And that's with as much work as we can handle. So like, when someone walks in off the street, it breaks my heart to be like, I can't put your tire on. Like, we're actually not a tire shop. We're actually a wheel shop that we can do tires for our clients. you got to get an appointment. And he needs this tire put on right now, but all my guys are busy, I'm busy, and my office manager's busy, and I have to tell him, you got to like set an appointment. That shit makes me sad. I want to be able to hire a guy that can do that, and that's his job, but I can't be there yet. But as far as an overall process, every wheel that we get in has to be inspected. So we have to do a run. We have to spin it on the balancer. We're looking for a dance. If the wheel's doing this, it's warped inside the hub. And most of the time we tell them that they're better off replacing. Before we do any repair on any wheel, we always ask them, like I said, how long has it been damaged? How long has it been bent, cracked, whatever.
Do you walk them? Do you tell them the process ahead of time? Like, hey, this is our process.
Yeah, for the most part, we give them a rundown of what to expect, and I like to show them.
I like hearing this because I want to figure out my process, and I'm
show them.
I'm learning
Videos, bro.
Things.
Videos are important. I take because every wheel we straighten, we put on the machine, and there's a video section in Mobile Tech. You can upload videos, paperwork. We have them sign a disclosure of this is not an OEM recommended repair. This is an alternative repair, stuff like that. And like you're giving me permission to make this better for you.
I didn't know you could upload a video into.
Only if you're paying for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Top tier.
And what we do, and they have a problem, which I would love to talk to somebody about. Like when you upload a video into work orders, it'll tell you what's there, and you can back out, saves, and then when you turn it to an invoice, the video's gone, but the picture's there. So then I have to upload the video again. So we have a monitor in my office, in the chair, the monitor, the desk. So the customers where I'm at, the monitor's right in front of them on the wall, and my office lady's right here working up what we did. And if let's just say they're picking up, for example, for a process, they're picking up a bent rim. When she sits them in the chair, the first thing she does is pulls up their file on Mobile Tech from the Apple's mirroring thing. So like her Mobile Tech thing is now on the TV. So the customer's not like doing that, and they're looking at it. And then she will pull up the video of the wheel on the machine with the dial indicator running whatever it's running. And then she explains.
No way.
Every wheel is supposed to be 35 thousandths of an inch run out. Your run out was 200, 300, 400 out. And they're like, whoa, what does that mean? You know? And it's just, even though Gina's still learning, I'm trying to get her to put the reps in. I'll ask her questions just to get her to give me answers. And sometimes her answers aren't all that great, but sometimes she surprises me. And it's just because she's still new and she's learning, but she's super ambitious and she works 2 jobs and she's a hustler. And I appreciate Gina, but we're literally revising our process right now. Like it's all being redone because we're offering more. But dude, setting up examples and educating the client is top priority, because when they leave their stuff with us, I want them to be, they already know what we're about to do. We're about to apply heat. We're about to do this. We're about to do that. Like everything's going to be tested and checked. And I want them to feel like we're taking care of them and they don't have to worry about shit. But as far as overall process, if they're getting an inspection and they're in my waiting room and I run their wheel and I find it to be non-repairable, even if it is repairable, a lot of times I'll bring them out to it. I'll show them what I'm looking at, and I'll show them this right here. You know, this wheel probably costs $300. It's got a real long bend with super high. So when it's running on the machine, it's like boom, boom. It's real bad. And like the face is pushed in. I'll say, did you price this wheel out? No, I didn't price it out. I don't have time for all that. You know, a lot of people are like, I need this fixed. I got a job to do tomorrow, whatever. So we try to give them the chance to look and price out a wheel. Gina is now getting better at helping them look on eBay, calling a couple salvage yards because they keep inventory. If we can help them, we will. If we can fix it, we will. But, you know, sometimes before we, just like y'all, like, hey, I'm going to move into this repair with your consent. I'm going to do my best, but I don't think this repair is going to work to my standard of completion. So I just need you to understand, like, let's put that replacement in your back pocket.
It's managing expectations.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just have that on the back burner. So if I end up calling you and saying, hey, I just cracked the shit out of your rim, and I cracked it in a way that I will not be able to weld. Speaking of welding, I learned how to weld. I know how to TIG weld aluminum now, and jiu-jitsu brought it into my life. Yeah, that was an awesome thing. Okay. Yeah, I learned how to TIG weld because I found a welder that was doing all my wheels for me, and he learned that I did jiu-jitsu, and he was super like interested in it. And I said, man, I want to learn how to weld. So you want to barter? And we put 3 years of practice in, and I taught him jiu-jitsu, and he taught me how to weld, and now I TIG weld like a boss. So that was awesome. Jiu-jitsu has brought so much awesome shit into my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as our process goes, everything, like I said, is documented. Everything's presented to them, and it's education based. So that's kind of like, that's why the word of mouth and the reviews stack up the way they do. And then people, you know, they're a little doubtful of the reviews, and I get accused of buying them, which makes me laugh.
Are you asking for the review? After
We mention how we love reviews. And every time we mention them, they tell us, oh, yeah, we've seen them.
How do you ask for the review?
We'll send follow-up text messages, and we send everybody that leaves our maintenance plan, our warranty plan, and like we have documents that we have files, and they're hanging on the wall. So I'll say, or Gina, or me, or whoever's checking them out. So those 3 documents on the wall right there, we're going to send over to your email, and we'll probably have a link attached to for a Google review. If you were satisfied with your service, we'd love you guys to express it. You know, and they're like, oh yeah, y'all killed it, man. You know, they'll tell us what they feel, and then a couple days later, boom, there it is. You know, so as long as they leave with it, the last thing that they remember is that we mentioned how we love Google reviews. They usually remember that. You know, and they run with it.
Is that you're manually sending that, or is any of that
Gina
automated?
She's manually.
Gina's doing
yeah,
it.
I used to have review auto populate like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I would send it to every single customer when I was doing it all. But people like to do things different ways, and I try to, as long as she's sending something, I let her do it her way. And I'm not sure if she's still sending or if she's doing it right there, but the reviews are coming in. So whatever she's doing is working right now.
Do you follow up if they don't leave a review?
No, not. We follow up anyway.
Yeah.
And we, like right now, we're developing a script, and I'm going to have my daughter Allie. She's been telling me she wants to make some money now, and she said she wants to do things, and she struggles academically. She is genetically hearing impaired, like my wife, and I'm trying to get her to be confident in herself, and lately she's a little bit on the doubting side of herself, eating a little bit too much, you know, being a little bit comfort eating, and like I'm trying to get her to work out. So I offered her a position of helping us redo a script and having her, because Grant Cardone gave me the idea, his daughter does it. So I was like, all right, this is good for her. I can get her to start calling customers once she's comfortable and off a script, thanking them for helping us get this many 5-star reviews. That's going to be the first thing we do, is calling them just to express our appreciation for helping us reach this new point. But we also wanted to call and just give you a rundown of how we can help you still. We're not just wheels. We do inspections, balancing tires, details, paint enhancements, touch-ups, all that stuff. So I'm trying to develop a script right now this summer with my daughter being there every day to make that to where she can do it. And customers like that stuff. I got a dog at the shop. Customers come just to say hi to him because they were there and they met him. And, you know, they the expectations of like, they bring my dog treats. I got one customer that keeps showing up at least once a week, and just to say
for the
hi,
dog.
and yeah, he'll give my dog a treat, and I think he likes my wife. You know, my wife is very beautiful. You know, and a lot of people come in there and they don't know she's my wife, and they're hitting on her and they're asking for her number, but she stays in the back, so she don't really hear them, and she'll wave and walk by. And I had to do yesterday, literally, in the chaos of me trying to get to the gym, the train that was an hour and a half away, I'm trying to run out the door early, and Gina walks over and goes, Ashley, that guy just called asking for your number. I was like, what guy? What are you talking about? And the customer came in there, saw my wife, and now he's on a mission to get her number, you know, and makes me laugh. But yeah, it's just part of the everybody working together for the most part, and yeah, getting it running right.
Yeah. We have this subject that we wanted to talk about. I feel like I could dig into your business even more. Like it's so interesting to me, and I feel like you've gone so far past what most guys in your niche do. Do you have anything like that you're wanting to ask him about his business, or to go deeper into it?
I'm just curious in wheels in general. Is yours? Do you think yours is more typical? Do you think yours is more on the upper end of it? I saw like a documentary a couple of years ago about these guys in New York City that do wheel repair like at night, mobile in a trailer. It was pretty cool. But like, you know, wheel repair to me is kind of more incognito than PDR. You know, I don't think
less known by people.
Yeah, way less known,
Yeah.
and it's not nearly as mainstream as PDR, which is not mainstream at all. I mean, it's
Very niche.
very niche. And so even in the wheel repair, I feel like the wheel repair guys I know are just mobile in the back of their Tacoma, show up to dealers, knock out a few wheels, go home.
Tacoma's out front.
They're not. There you go. And they're not really building the business. They're just getting a paycheck.
Yeah, well, the difference is I helped other people, and I was put into positions to where I kind of had to sink or swim. And then I started listening to podcasts and books that gave me a whole different way.
So the question is do you think yours is more an anomaly based on all the wheel companies that you know about? I mean, I'm sure there's some really big ones in Vegas or New York City or something like that. I'm sure there's some crazy
in our
outfits.
area. Yes,
I'm just saying generically when you just look at in general, like let's just say my shop. I mean, I would say middle. There's a lot of mobile guys that are just running around in Tacomas and Rangers, but then there's other shops that are doing multiple services and got 13 technicians, and so I'm kind of more center of the industry. Where are you positioned? Are you kind of at the higher end as far as like your brand and your business, or are you more? Where do you?
Well, when I touched on how the name was made, my brother asked me, "How can your name, reflect what you're actually doing?" And the Rim Reaper was not a good idea, but absolute means that you can handle anything, right? Your absolute solution. And I was afraid to pick that, but he told me that if I pick that name, it'll only make me want to be able to handle more because it's in the name. And I'm like, all right, well, if I set that as my goal to where, like, there's obviously things, I'm not going to be making wheels out of solid blocks of fucking alloy. Like, some people want me to mill and weld the bore and re-drill it and all these different things. And I'm like, that's out of my wheelhouse, not messing with that. But I want to be known for being able to bring a damaged wheel back to life and make it to where our service and everything was just unmatched anywhere else. And that's my goal, is to be the absolute solution for a specific problem with your wheel being damaged, cracked, scratched, curbed, any of that crap. And customizing it too. And that's where powder coating's coming in. So I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I want to be known as the premier, the one. It's just I'm far from it. It's just like an idea right now. Because my ultimate goal is I want to build absolute auto spa centers. I want to buy real estate. I'm running McDonald's University style, buy real estate, put a business on it, run it. And if I can have my main facility doing all the repairs, I have my drivers doing pickups from collision centers and dealerships, and I have auto centers where Absolute Auto Spa, where customers are subscription members and they can pull into their side of town, self-service car wash, and I have an estimator at each location that runs it, and he can run around the car, give them an estimate, to help them understand if there's any issues with their wheels or whatever. And every customer gets a special price if they're a member, and feed my shop all the work from my centers and collision centers and dealerships. I know that I will be able to buy a big facility, and eventually I'll be able to do way more, but I want to take it over how it's done and change it, because everybody is thinking dealership, that's the way to do it, or collision center. But if I can do them all and have a headquarter of operation where everything comes, but I also have in every city where I'm known a self-service center, they're going to be able to go in there and handle their stuff, be taken care of, and then feed me back any other work that my shop needs. And then then my reputation and the brand will be undeniable and unforgettable, because now it's expanding through the areas I used to travel in my trailer around. Now I got centers in each. Like, I want one in New Smyrna, I want one in Daytona, I want one in Merritt Island. Like, I want one everywhere where I used to be, and that's 10 years away. But that's where I'm setting the bar higher. I don't even fucking accomplish the first bar before I change it higher. And that might be a little bit of Andy Frisella. Like, I listened to a lot of that podcast from the MFCEO days. His podcast in 2019, the MFCEO project, taught me aggressive patience, taught me all that stuff. So I do give him, that's why I did 75 hard a few times, because that dude put the fucking fire in me. And on every customer matters, that customer. but that's super hard to do when you're doing 5 customers at once. So it's like the system matters, and like systems make speed and efficiency is power. And it's like all these little factors that like, how do you make these things? But by trial and error, and then you figure them out. So I will be, I will be the fucking top wheel repair company, and I will be known around the whole country. And that's a statement I'm making now for sure, out loud for everybody to hear.
Boom. So you're how I heard of Andy Frisella.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just sharing it online.
Right on.
And I've gone through phases to where I'll listen to him for
He's
a chunk of
difficult to hear
time,
sometimes,
and then I'll be
man.
like, I can't handle this guy.
Yes, I get that.
And then like a year later, I'll listen to him again for several months.
Yeah, and sometimes it really lights the fire, and sometimes he's too politically aggravated, and you can't listen to it, And that's why the MF CEO project, he started that in like 2012. But I picked it up in 2019. So when I got through with the MF CEO project, it was during the pandemic. I was running a business in the pandemic, I bought the trailer in 2019, started the business, COVID happened. Living in a trailer, starting a business again, like, is this even gonna work? Like, people want me to wear masks when I'm walking in their dealerships. I don't wanna wear a mask. I was wearing a face thing because I would do that when I sand wheels, put the little thing over my face and go. So it was kind of like, no big deal. I just put it in my face as I go in. But like shit was just getting weird, but more people started to ignore what was happening. Florida didn't really get as much bullshit as other people. So we're blessed there. But
What do you, just off the top of your head, what would you say your split is in your business is between wholesale, retail? I would say, would you separate it by dealership, collision center, retail? Or
I
how do you
bunched the
separate
collision
it?
centers and dealerships together as wholesale. And
Yep.
right now it's 50-50. And
wow.
Yeah, before it was way more retail. I was dominating.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because of the Google reviews, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exaggerated. It's hilarious because everybody tells me they got me from Google or someone told them. And that's feels good, But the wholesale just
I don't know any other wheel company focused on retail.
because it's
doing
difficult.
retail like that.
Yeah, because it's difficult. Because if you don't do a good job and the customer's particular, and you're actually not as good as you're telling them you are, and then fixing a fuck up is way harder than doing it right the first time. So a lot of wheel guys do it and they just move on. And that customer can't even get a hold of them. And I've dealt with that. I've fixed a lot of wheel guys' mistakes. And fixing it to the degree that could be fixed rather. And I think that I focused on that because of the way that these books and certain things motivated me. Like Brian Tracy, I'm a huge Brian Tracy fan. I listened to all his books, The Psychology of Selling, for the past 7 years. I listened to it once a year just to keep me thinking about my body language when I'm talking to a customer, not being aggressive with a customer with just my posture, because sometimes I'm aggravated, had a rough morning, and I got to talk to a client. I have to remember that he can read my energy, right? He can feel my frustrations, and I don't need him dropping his wheel off with me, worrying about me being frustrated. So like there's certain things that those books keep me going, like Stoic Philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, what stands in the way becomes the way. So no matter what is in front of me, I have to address it. I can't just ignore it. So like I try to bring those things to light every day in my head, and then weekly meetings with my people. I'm struggling with that because I'm like, all right, guys, we're gonna have our meeting on Wednesday, and then Wednesday turns into shambles. You're late. He's late. I'm here at 5 a.m. Y'all are getting here at 8. I'm 4 hours into the day. When y'all all get here, I'm in the booth for another 4 hours. Our meeting never happened. It's like I'm still working through the chaos, but from the outside looking in, it looks really well ran right now. Like I keep getting that compliment, which is a fucking blessing, because before it was like, damn, you guys did a good job, but I didn't expect it. Couldn't even find you. Your shop looked half-assed. It looked crappy in here. Like I've had people tell me that straight up. Like didn't expect your work to be so good. It's like, hey man, I'm doing the best I can.
That's the duck or whatever, where the above the water looks calm and underneath it's
yeah.
So what did you do to improve that experience of how people see your shop and stuff like that?
I just started running it, just started running different ways of doing things. And I increased my aesthetic walk-in. When you walk in, I had put educational stuff, like a headlight, I did half and half, like left all the sun damage on one, re-clear coated the other, a wheel the same way. So my goal was as soon as the customer walked in the shop, they got to see things and kind of look at it. And if they read it and stuff, they already know we can fix the problem. If they're here for a certain wheel repair, headlight restoration, calipers, things like that, like we have educational stuff on the wall explaining stuff. So I pretend that every client has researched and they know they could fix it themselves, but they don't have the time. Every customer thinks like that in my head. So like I like to say, I know you know, like I don't tell them that, but like I like to give them the education in a non-dick way. I'm not trying to shove the knowledge down your face. I'm just trying to put knowledge in front of you and let you dictate of like the conversation of asking me the questions based off what's there. And that helped. That's like setting up the chair and the umbrella for the guy and letting him kind of go through the experience, ask me the questions you want. He walks away usually, most of the time. But that's the system of just education, process, and then scheduling and taking in the job and making everything to where they're satisfied with the whole process. One big key is I send messages of updates to customers through the process. So I like to be the annoying, instead of them, because you guys know you have their car for hours, maybe it's taking a little longer and they're like, are we almost done? Will it be done today? Can I come get it? Instead of that from them, they get that from us. This is where we are. What you think? Love this. You did such a good job picking this color scheme. I was a little worried, but now that we put it together, check this out. Boom, sending them things. They're like, oh man, constant updates. And that seems to be a big factor of like, I mean, now that we do it, we have to repeat it. And it's got to be like if a customer leaves a car and they ended up being told, this is more of a job for a day, unfortunately, would you be able to leave it with us? And they're like, oh, will it be able to stay in overnight? Like, I don't want it outside. Well, I got a 3-bay garage. So I'll always park their stuff in if I have it. But before I leave that day, I send them a picture of their car inside and I say, she's safe for the night. Man, that goes far.
Yeah.
Wow.
That goes far. And
Yeah.
like, and I try to tell Gina, like, you need to do the same things that I send her videos and she sends them to him, but I want her to take the initiative and start taking the pictures, start taking the videos. Take a picture of me straightening a wheel. I don't have to know you're doing it. Just walk by, go into the office, wheels being worked on, everything's looking smooth. Boom. That's all you got to do. It takes 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So one other thing that you do that is impressive is you have your own products. Like you mentioned, let me see if I can come up with this, like clean, shine, protect, dress.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yes, that is
okay,
it.
and you have your own branded products.
Absolute wheel care.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Well, we were doing so much, wheel stuff and cleaning, and we're doing detailing on wheels specifically. I wasn't doing detailing on cars. So, like, I was trying to figure out a way to make money off stuff that wasn't killing me to do it all. And I had a friend that he's like, I can help you make labels and I can help you design them. And I was like, all right. Well, we started coming up with ideas. I reached out to Renegade private label options that they had. And they had a cleaner and a wax and a SiO2 ceramic and then the tire shine. And they had all these different options. So they sent me over some samples and I was playing with them and everything I got worked. It wasn't like anything was like, oh, this sucks. Everything that they sent me worked. But as I was developing like a color scheme for things, I didn't like the color of this one. I wanted it to be this color or whatever because I was trying to because our colors were historically like black, white, and gray. You know, we didn't really add colors to our company stuff. So I wanted to have something that was a little bit more stand out, like on the shelves. In my brain, it was going to be on O'Reilly's shelf selling, like as I was developing it, that was where I wanted it to go. We came up with it and it came out great. I started making videos of like using my products and like clean, shine, protect, dress. But now it turned into how we do your maintenance plan. Once you leave my shop, you get a maintenance plan. And your maintenance plan is these products being used on your wheels 2 times a year for free. And now that's how it is. I don't ever like run to a place trying to sell my products anymore. I don't really care to do that. Eventually it'll probably get there again when I focus on it. But right now I'm focusing on building a whole nother service into my shop. Like this whole week, I stayed at my shop from 6 in the morning to 11 at night. Other than 2 days ago, I stayed the night there because a concrete truck was coming at 6 in the morning and I couldn't get there that fast. Staying in there till 11, I would be sleeping in. So I stayed the night there, got a bunch of work done, and concrete got poured. Then that same day I ran to do MMA sparring, and then I'm here. And like, I am exhausted. And I was so scared to come here because I know I'm fatigued. I went and sparred last night with one friend, and the rest of them were strangers. And when you spar with strangers, they're sizing you up. They're gonna hit you a little harder. They're gonna get a feel for you. And I am not in shape. I did a jiu-jitsu tournament like randomly because my office manager's kids were doing it. And she's like, Garrett, you should do it. I was like, no. And then she's like, oh, come on. The kids really want to see you compete. I haven't been training, and I'm a brown belt, and like it's kind of like going and competing against other brown belts when you haven't been training is a little sketchy. Well, I signed up for it based off of her. You know, she really wanted me to, and I did it. And I ended up doing it, and it's black and brown. And I was like, shit, why are they mixed up? So I'm competing against black belts, and then you see this Jiu-Jitsu World League, you can sign in, and she showed me everybody that was in my bracket. These guys are black belts with their own schools in Tampa. And I'm like, I'm not ready for this, Gina. Like, this is... She's like, oh, you'll do good, you'll do good. Well, I'm about to talk myself out of that shit, dude, because of how much stress I have with the business. I'm working all these hours. I haven't trained in 2 months. And then I ended up taking the tournament. My wife wouldn't let me not do it because I already spent the money. She was like, you better go. I was trying to talk myself out the morning of. I showed up. I took 3rd place. I made podium against black belts. And holy shit, bro. That was like, I ain't ever going to allow myself to get talked out of something.
This is just jiu-jitsu?
This was just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't been training or nothing. So like
Wow.
I proved to myself that like, hey, man, even though I'm putting in all these extra hours and I'm wore out, I'm not training, I'm still capable. Like, and that's where I try to test myself every once in a while. I don't remember what led to that.
I was asking you about the products.
Yeah, my bad.
So do you, can people, like, do your customers buy that?
yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. They love
Yeah.
the tire shine. The tire shine's aesthetically pleasing for people. It's like a detailer's best friend. You know, you put tire shine on it, it kind of looks clean. But that's been my biggest thing is every customer, if I even just do one wheel, I clean them all with the product, with the system. So like all 4 wheels are tire shined, even though I just fixed one. All of them are cleaned, shined, protected, and dressed. You know, and like I push that as repetitive.
That's good. That
Yeah.
system is really good.
And it's nice looking too. The labels, they're 4 bottles, and they have like arrows that cut the color and that merge into the next bottle. So it's color coded into a system with an arrow, and then the end has a checkered flag. So like it looks really nice, and you know it took a long time to come up with, but it all worked out good. It's not selling off the shelves, but it's doing its purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to run to the restroom real quick
Okay.
before we do these questions.
Yeah. We might not even get into these very far.
I'm sorry.
No, dude. This is great. Like I'm learning more than I think I would even when we get into those questions. So one other thing I was going to ask you about is you probably haven't even thought about this, but
Make me.
have you considered doing training like for your industry?
Yeah, Absolute Wheel University. I already gave it some thought.
You already got
Yeah.
you already got a website and everything?
Yeah, I already have a on paper, you know,
Okay.
but that's another like 10-year thing. I can't justify training until I have, I guess, a physical representation of something working out that wasn't
Of your whole system.
Yeah, that I trained someone to put into motion and they were able to do it. Like just because I'm doing it, that's a lot of years of trial and error and drowning and barely getting above water and treading, you know, like it's difficult. So training somebody like Bryce Kelly, I reached out to him a couple months ago and I sent him like asking him about how he structures his training stuff and like how did it, you know, I'm trying to understand like where should I start? But yeah, Absolute Will University will be a thing, and I will have courses. I used to make a bunch of training videos, but everything that I used to do, I don't do the same way. So like I want to make sure that when I do it, my system is set in stone and nothing's going to change. For the most part, everything will be the same, and then I'll feel real confident selling it. Because I'm getting into powder coating, I've been posting some of my videos.
Are you just self-teaching yourself powder coating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been posting my videos in groups and forums like online, and people have been messaging me saying like, oh, I would do this, or I'm like, because a machine wheel running on the lathe. And I'm like, if you were going to powder coat this instead of wet paint it, what process would you do first and last? And I'll post a video of me cutting a wheel. And then one dude messaged me. He owns a wheel repair company in Georgia, and he's still trying to, you know, grow. And he said he's been following me a long time. He sees that I'm like the review king. He said to me on the message, and I was like, yeah, dude, you know, I'm doing what I can. And we're talking, and he invited me. He sent me a bunch of pictures of wheels he's been powder coating. I don't know how to powder. And he says, I started just like you're doing with all wet applications, and now I do powder, and I would love to help you. And I said, great, man, I would love the help. What can we do? And he's like, well, if you want to come to my shop for a day, I'll just bring a couple stripped wheels and I'll let you play with the powder. And I'm like, man, I want to say his name's Brandon. we've been talking for a couple of weeks now, and I'm going to go to his shop. I was supposed to do it the same time I came here this whole weekend, but Father's Day is tomorrow,
Yeah.
so I wasn't able to make it happen. But he invited me, and I ain't going to take that for granted.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to learn how to powder coat.
Yeah.
From someone that was just like me. You know what I mean? So, like, that's exciting. And once I get all those processes built, like, then everything will start clicking for the whole university thing.
Yeah.
But
I was asking him if he plans on doing training.
Oh,
And he said he will once he gets his system set. But I mean, dude, from the outside looking in, you have a lot to offer people that I know that we can only do so much. You have to focus your attention on something, and I don't want you to, stop focusing on what's the most important thing.
Right.
But yeah, dude, you could definitely
it'll come.
be training guys.
Yeah, it'll come, especially when everything's just making sense and I'm making the money and I don't have to do it all. I'm trying to set it like a clock, watch it tick. Everybody's got a station. I'm building stations right now. Like I told you, I was waiting on the concrete truck. My buddy Austin, when it's fighting in Louisiana on the 18th of July, he owns a business building pool cages and awnings and stuff, and he built me one at cost. Coming off the back of my building, we put concrete down. I'm building a strip wash bay area for wheels that we have to chemically strip, because with paint, I don't necessarily have to strip things. I can just etch and apply over factory OEM finishes and things. But with powder, you can't. You have to strip, you have to off gas, you have to do certain things. So like I'm trying to get ready for all of these trial, and like right now when we strip a wheel, it is a mess. We have a barrel, a 55-gallon barrel. I built like this little rig I welded together off of a hoist that I lower into the tank, and I bought this heat band that heats the tank up. And the stripper only works off of heat. So it's not like B17. B17's super aggressive. And you can just wipe it on and it will just start blistering all the clear. But it's so dangerous. I got it on my foot one time a few years ago. I thought I was going to lose my toe. I heard a story about a company they sold everything they had because one of their employees got B17 splashed in his face. So I will not have that stuff in my shop. But I found an eco-friendly heated option, but it stinks. And no one likes it. And I'm the only one that really does it because I don't want to ask them to do it. One other guy will do it with me, but he's got sensitive skin, and if it gets on him, he's itchy. So like I'm like, man, I got to get this cleaner. So I built this whole thing. So far, I'm about $5,000 in on building it, but I don't. I'm like, God, I got to hurry up. And my wife is telling me to slow down. I've overspent on just trying to add things to the business, but it's all going to make sense. Like now we're going to get a bigger tank. We're going to be able to strip things instead of moving them from the strip tank all the way running with a wheel, bro. Like the silliest shit you can even imagine is all going to be right there. Pressure washer mounted on the wall, quick rinse off. Like everything's going to be better, and that's what I'm trying to do before I think about training anybody. I got to make sure everything makes sense. And I'm about to go see this guy's operation, and I'm going to go find the next guy's operation, and I'm going to be visiting. you know? And that's kind of the plan for now.
Yeah. Matt, you got any more specific questions for Garrett?
No, man, that's a really cool business model. It sounds like you've done a lot in the last couple of years. I mean, it sounds like a sprint.
Yeah,
where you're at.
Yeah, see, now why I'm always waking up like this. I told you, you were figured out.
Yeah.
I just want to get that under control, which I know I'm going to. And I know, like you said, I have to adjust my expectations on things, like with my kids and my time and the way we live. And I know they know, like, everything's going to come full circle. And I just can't get down on myself about it, which I do. I'm human, bro. Like, that's why jiu-jitsu is my therapy. And, like, every Friday I try to do open mat. And the last 3 months I've missed it. And, like, my wife can see that it's not good for me. You know, but like I trained a couple different times in different locations, so it's kind of made up for it. But that is my therapy, and if I do not do it, I do get fucking stupid. Yeah.
So it kind of alludes to the questions we were going to ask, and maybe we can't go so far down it, but we can. Graze.
I don't even know if we can get into it.
Well,
because we're almost at 3 hours.
Yeah.
Damn.
We got like maybe
7
10 minutes. Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So just real quick, topically.
Okay.
Like the question was what's some ways to cultivate a growth mindset, right? So tell us.
So I'll just pick one.
Yeah.
The one I'll choose to say is surround yourself with solid people.
people that you admire and you can measure yourself against in a healthy way, and that people that will challenge you and motivate you. I feel like that is a catalyst, at least for me, in learning about. I was listening to a podcast just about somebody. I think it was Jocko podcast. You listen to him?
Yeah.
And you're talking about the SEAL teams, and part of why that works so well is because it's so competitive. They're always competing, and they're just pushing each other further and further. And I was just trying to think of what pushes me internally, and it is like having somebody that's pushing you in different ways of your life. Yeah.
Would you say that's like not being the smartest guy in the room? Like,
Sure.
Is that
Yeah,
trying
somebody
to
that
surround
you're-
yourself with other people who are always essentially
Yes. People that are doing stuff that my teenagers would say, people that have motion.
Right on.
He's got motion. It's like, okay, he's doing stuff, maybe even in areas of life that I'm not doing something, but they're like, oh, dang, he's doing all this other stuff. It's like, man, if he's got, he's excelling in all these things, what am I doing? Like spending my time doing these stupid things. I need to, So yeah, I think for me, that's a very important part of it.
Right on. I like that. I tell my son it's better to be the dumb one in the room than pretend to be the smartest. It's easier. You won't get exposed, And I think he took that really fucking far, because now I feel like he pretends he don't know as much as he does. And I can look at his eyes and know he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it'll take him farther that way. Just at least accepting information and learning from other people, and not coming into the game like, no, I'm doing it my way. My way's better. You got to be able to take everybody's way, dissect it, learn why it's the way, and then add it to your way. And then that's how you grow. Everybody's got some knowledge.
What about y'all?
I think a good way like that I try to cultivate a growth mindset is a good balance of intensity in what you do, and then a certain amount of intensity outside of what you do. Like I think having another outlet kind of helps you get perspective. If I was just thinking and eating and doing dents all day long, then you kind of get this maybe an obscure view or perspective that allowing you to stop and have another thing that you do that isn't related to the one thing. If that's dents or wheels, it doesn't matter. Like you said, going to open mat for you occasionally, that's good. That's an outlet that allows you to detach from the day to day.
You bow on, your problems go away.
Yeah. So temporarily, of course, they go away for that day, but it also allows you to kind of get an external view of the other things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because if you're just in it and you're always focused, like when we're doing a dent, and this was part of the training, is like I'm trying to repair this one area, and you're so focused, and you get this tunnel vision, and then it's good to like stop and step away, meaning like 2 steps. I'm not talking about go out to your car. I'm talking about 2 steps and get another perspective, get another angle, and you may see something else that's going on that may be inhibiting what you're trying to do with that repair.
Change your vantage point.
Change a vantage point. And so having an intensity, because you have to have a certain amount of intensity that you'll want to grow in whatever it is you're doing, but then stepping away and looking at it from another vantage point. And there's so many things that bleed over, like lessons that you might learn in jiu-jitsu that you can apply to business, like patience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pretty good lesson that, I can directly apply to my business, or whatever.
Not judging books by their cover. That's one I learned in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that when you're doing, let's just say you're step away from wheels because you have a rough week or whatever, and and you could stay all weekend and recover, or focus on the wheels, but it's like, no, man, I'm going to go do this. And then you go do that jiu-jitsu, and then you're like, oh, man, patience helped me here. okay, well then how can I overlay that to my business in a way that
For sure.
that grows me through whatever that is? So I've learned that, when I was in doing hail, there wasn't really room for that for me. I mean, I was just 6 days head down, one day, just recover. You can't think about anything else. It was just intensity, intensity, intensity.
But when you do that, it's when you started that it's temporary intensity, right? Like there's a deadline on that.
Well, it's different. It's different. So it's like 6 months of intensity.
Okay, yeah.
And then you're off for 4 months.
Right.
And so then that's where you develop this other perspective. So it's just longer durations. So instead of having a 5-day work week and 2 days off, you're having a 6-month work week and a 4-month off.
Right. How odd.
Right. And so I'd be, after I just ran a sprint full blast marathon, combination of the two, doing hail, and you come back and I just want to veg out in my garage and stare at a wall. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to recover what I did.
Oh, yeah.
Then you start getting perspective. So it's just different durations. But we're in a different type of business where we're open 5 days a week or whatever your hours are, and then you have 5 days on, 2 days off, probably, or 6. And I think it's good to have a hobby that's unrelated, that you can step away from, that you can get perspective and you can get principles from, that will overlay in some way for business if you're thinking in that growth mindset way.
And developing the growth mindset to do that is definitely key. And here's mine then, for developmental purposes. To develop that mindset, you have to win every day. And I learned that from Andy Frisella, and he has a power list that he uses, and I do it. I don't do it to his exact detail, but I do it that fits me. And I write out my day the night before of main things that I have to make sure I remember for the day that's coming. And Brian Tracy talks about this in his books too. If you set your day out the night before, you write it out while you're sleeping, your brain is solving those problems that you wrote out. So if I write on my paper, I got to run payroll.
And you do this every night?
Yeah, I'll write payroll tomorrow, 5 wheels, priority wheels getting done before. I'll write out things that I need to make sure I remember. And if it's 6 a.m. jujitsu because I told someone I was going to be at 6 a.m. class, I'll write it on the thing and I'll make that happen. But the night before, Brian Tracy put some emphasis on the night before is when you're sleeping, your subconscious is digesting the information, and when you wake up, you almost feel like you're ready and motivated to go knock those off your list. And in Frisella's philosophy is you win the day by day. You put a W on that page and you move on to the next day, and you won the day before. So as you progressively win each day, you build momentum. And if you have momentum, it's easy to carry, even if your motivation dies, and your momentum has to be carried over with discipline. Motivation comes in waves. Discipline can continue, right? So that helps me a lot, even though sometimes if I can't finish the tasks on that day, I'll circle them. And when I do the next day, I'll write them again just to keep them relevant in my time, like pay sales tax. I got to remember to pay sales tax on this certain day. So I'll make sure I put it on there, and then I'll run all my numbers on that piece. I'm trying to alleviate that responsibility to somebody right now of trying to get me out of payroll, sales tax, all the extra stuff that I don't want to do. I'm trying to give to somebody. But writing everything out helps me develop and cultivate the direction that I'm going.
So you're a visual guy.
Yeah. And if
Do you have a notebook that you do that
I got
in?
a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I write all my ideas in it, and I'll have conversations with ChatGPT about things that I'm thinking about, and then it'll give me food for thought, and I'll write down. And writing definitely is the way to do it. If anybody's like, man, everything I'm trying is not working, try that, and don't give up on it. And win the day. If you win the day, bro, it's satisfying. Going to the grocery store and getting everything on your list, doesn't that feel kind of good? You're like, fuck yeah, I got it all. Cross off.
Win?
Yeah, winning. Yeah, you win. And if you can break them into micro wins, bro, micro wins work. They add up. Macro, this is the way to do it.
That's good. So we just got our second sponsor, Claim Connection, Keith Cosentino's company. claimconnection.io. Matt, tell us, what does this company do? You use them.
I do. I have used them quite a bit for writing, translating estimates. So we don't have a CCC subscription here to be able to write body shop equivalent estimates. We have Mobile Tech. So there's a little bit of, let's just say, different language between Mobile Tech and CCC. What an insurance adjuster sees and pays on versus how a Mobile Tech written estimate, just different format. So what we can do is take in a car, and you're going to get all the information for the client, insurance, whatever pertinent information you're looking for, and you can utilize Claim Connection as basically as an extension of your business. So I don't have that subscription for CCC, nor do I have someone who is able to know that program, like, because you got to figure that out, as far as how to do a program, and then even knowing the ins and outs of navigating the insurance estimates, like what you can ask for, what you can't, what's necessary, what's OEM procedure, what's not. So instead of having someone on staff that does all that or knows all that, I can essentially subcontract them out for this one-time thing, and I can get them all the information. They write the estimate for me. They have all my business information, so when they write the estimate, they're writing it underneath the guise of my business. And so then now I'm going to get this professional looking estimate from, looks like it was written in my business, but it was written through this Claim Connection IO. And now I can take that professional estimate with all the necessary times, OEM procedures, format, and give that right to an insurance company. And so when they see it, it's familiar to them when they open it. They say, oh, this is what we're asking for, this is what we're doing, instead of a foreign format like Mobile Tech, which is not something that insurance companies use. Mm-hmm. So it's faster to get approvals, because they're not having to like, what is this? The insurance adjusters, they can see it and say, oh, okay, this is what he's asking for. This is what we pay. This is what he's getting approved. So it's faster. I don't have to do it. I'm hiring someone to do that for me. So basically an admin person is doing that for me. So I can be doing other things that generate income for my business, like training or fixing dents or dealing with customers or even trying to acquire other estimates in the door. And then I basically hand them off to Claim Connection, and they're doing that. So it's a really valuable for us. We don't have a whole lot. So if I was a body shop, obviously I'd have to have that in-house. It's not something you'd want to farm out every day to that degree. But we're only getting insurance type estimates every so often. And so it's a very good piece of the puzzle that I can add in and utilize professionals in their field. I mean, that's what they are. They're experienced professionals who know what they're doing better than me. I've had a couple of situations to where I've just sent them information, and I won't go specific. It doesn't matter for time's sake. But like they've come back at me, they're like, "Hey Matt, you cannot take on this job because the OEM procedure said it has to do this, and you don't have the ability to do that. So unless you can do this, you should just send this job down the road." And it's like, oh, glad I know that. Glad I have you here to tell me these things, because otherwise I would have assumed of a lot of liability that I would like to not assume if I don't have to. And so, you're temporarily hiring an extension of your business, but they're a professional of it. So let's just say I hired a real person. Could I afford someone to do that? Or let's just say I trained someone. How long would it take them to get to that point? Or how many things would they miss in that learning curve? That would be liabilities that so it's an easy solution for me that I can bring them on and save me a lot of headache, save me a lot of time, save me a lot of money. And
they said on average they get $1,800 more per claim.
Yeah, so what they're referring to in that
it's
regard
amazing.
is maybe time that you didn't know that job pays. And that is just from ignorance on my end. It's not that they're doing something devious. It's just that I didn't know that was something I can charge for.
That
the
you're
insurance-
supposed to
that
do
you're
and you're supposed to get paid for,
That you're
right?
supposed to. So, yes, you're generally going to write something out of ignorance and just like, oh, I'm going to do this quarter panel, but I didn't know I can get paid to remove the taillight. I didn't know I could get paid to remove the interior trim, or I didn't know this taillight requires the bumper to come off. And then if this bumper comes off, it has to be recalibrated from a Toyota dealership. So it saves you liability right there. It's like, ooh, I was just going to rip this off in my shop, not charge for it and put it back on. Total ignorance, right? Man, I can't just do that without assuming liability, and I can't just pull the taillight without taking the bumper off. So, they're coming to you with knowledge and with experience where maybe your business doesn't have that. And so they're just a really good addition to utilize. Really smart people. Keith knows what he's talking about. Even the people that they have on, Tammy and others that work for Claim Connection, they're very well versed in what they're doing. They all come from body shop background, and so they know what we need. We actually even had Tammy here come in our shop and sit with me for a repair for 3 days because she wanted to see what is involved in a high quality PDR job, whether or not it's the time or whether or not it's the R&I. She just wanted to see because she comes from a body shop background, and even though they're similar, they're very different, right? Like very different
Right.
repair. And so they went and sat with Bryce, watched Bryce do repair, sat with me, watched me do repair, so they can look at it and say, okay, this is what PDR is. This is what these guys need to do their job. So they're just more well informed of those parameters that we're trying to work in. And so we use them. They're great. And I love having them on the sponsor. Just going back into last week, we're talking about sponsorship and like bringing on sponsors that we use or that we believe in. This is definitely one I do, and I could show you pay stubs before they were a sponsor to show you that this is a company that I've used multiple times in the past over the last 2 years. So, yeah.
Boom. And we just got our second glue in our 2 hot glue system,
Yep.
and it's awesome. It rips. I was impressed because it's been super hot out, and I was very impressed about how it rips up hail dents. It's a flexible, cool weather glue, but man, it still works in the heat. I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, so we just got that in. That is sold through Anson and other PDR companies that picked it up too, like A1 I know has it in stock. But it is designed, this one is designed specifically to be a hail glue. So you're not going to have as much of a hard, secure bond as you would in a collision tab because you don't want that. Because with hail, you're doing lighter pulls and you really want to be able to get off the car faster so you can be more efficient, so you can make more money. So you're trying to, it's like the Goldilocks. You need it to hold on to do its job, but you don't want it to hold on so hard that you got to fight for 20 minutes to get it off. So there's that just right that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so this is just right. And we got it in last week, and we've got some hail cars in the shop that we've been using it on. And then I also had some other jobs. I had an advanced training here last week, and so we were using the big collision glue and the collision systems to unfold this damage. But then we also needed to just do some smaller, lighter pulls. And I've only been impressed with this glue. So it is 88 degrees in my shop this week. I've been taking temperatures because we're testing the panel. So it's like between 88 and 90 degrees in my shop, ambient temperature. And this is just hooking up and ripping hard. So it's a great glue. The 2 glue system, one is the collision glue and this is the hail glue, and they completely complement each other. So check it out. at pdrtool.com, which is A1s or Anson PDR. And
Dentslayer.com, you can get to all that too.
just there you go. Go
Yeah.
to dentslayer.com and they'll direct you all of those.
Garrett, where can people find you if people want to reach out to you, or where can they find your business?
Instagram is where I'm most active. AWR Wheels. I think we have it AWR Wheels on Instagram. It's easier to type that out rather than Absolute Wheel Repair. And AbsoluteWheelRepair.com's links everything there for our Instagram, and kind of have a TikTok, but I don't really mess with it a whole lot. But Google and the website and Instagram is kind of my main spot.
Dude, thank you so much for driving up. I learned a lot. I'm fired up. I feel like I'm passionate about wheel repair now.
New competitor.
But man, yeah, dude, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate
the
it.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Happy I got to do this. Definitely made me think about some things. So I appreciate it. It was great meeting you.
Yeah, you too, you as well. Thank you for driving up. We're just neighbors, right? You're what, 2 hours?
An hour and 45 minutes.
Hour and 45.
Yep. Not too bad.
Okay.
That's from Augustine, and I'm 30 minutes, so I don't know. Maybe it's a little less from my shop.
Wow.
I'll map it out when I get there. I got to go there today. We'll see
Okay.
how long it takes me.
All right, y'all.
Very
See you
cool.
next time.
Sweet.
The
Thank you,
Dent
guys.
Slayer,
See you later.
Matt Boyette. Thank you so much for being here.
She's smooth, boy.